individuals can be infringed of the rights of others. And that is why the law has made provision in civil law for defamation, which will be libelous if it's written in permanent form, and it will become slander if it's uttered in temporary form. And that is why it is a civil law. It need not be made a crime. And that is what Section 24 of the Cybercrime has done, which is why, again, we have seen its misuse over and over. It is a civil law, and there are remedies for defamation. You could get damages, you get reparations. There are a lot of remedies, and people have got to court on this instance. So the question is, why should freedom of expression and the breach of it, if other rights of people are breached, why should it be criminalized? It's a civil law, and the civil remedies. Why should it be criminalized? And that is what has lent itself to this misuse that we've seen. So for people who have their rights infringed, or who are defamed or slandered, as it were, there's a remedy for them in law, and they should take that up.
I don't seem to understand, because if you're being arrested for defamation, and you call it defamation, it sounds as if it is all right because the laws are already there. But if you are arrested because you use the other term, that is the cyberbullying or cyber stalking, it seems to be something that you should not be arrested for or something. Make it make sense to me how someone can, there could be a libel, there could be a scandal, and then you can be arrested because the laws are there for them. And you're saying they should not criminalize the same thing that you are being arrested for if you call it a different name. I just don't seem to understand. I'm not arguing differently.
Let me explain.
Yes, please.
Basically, there is civil law and there is criminal law among the various divisions of law. A civil law will be the rights and obligations of individuals either amongst themselves or between organizations or even institutions of government or among arms of government, as the case may be. And in that case, a civil wrong will be, for instance, breach of contract, and defamation is a civil wrong, as it were. So if, as we're having this conversation, I call you a name that you do not like, you will go to court against me and ask for damages or whatever reparations you want. That is a civil wrong. That is not a crime. But Section 24 makes it a crime, which means it is a crime against the state, which is why law enforcement agencies will have to come in to arrest you. So ideally, nobody should be arrested for defamation because it's a civil wrong. You can't go to court. But when it becomes a crime, in this instance, Section 24, it means that it is the state prosecuting you on behalf of another, which is why I'm making that case that it need not be criminalized. There are remedies in civil law that can be explored, and that is being explored.
Okay, I get the argument right now. But to be fair, it is not really a Nigerian thing, you know that. It's not even an ECOWAS thing, because we have instances, for instance, in France, where a 50-year-old woman is facing trial. She was being arrested for publicly, what they say, insulting President Macron. We also had in September 2021, where something like that happened, and a 62-year-old person was arrested as well. So why is it such a big issue here in Nigeria and ECOWAS that you needed to go to court when it seems as if it is happening everywhere else? Or is it that everywhere it is happening, it should be condemned in the same way?
I'm not aware of these instances that you mentioned, and I'm sure there are contextual facts that will possibly place them in a different realm entirely. But be that as it may, social media and the digital age brings along a new trend of its own, which means that rights are cool to us naturally in the real world, sometimes has been translated to the virtual space. That itself has brought up a lot of issues, and it's a global thing, and that the limits and the extent of these rights are being tested for these digital rights, data rights, and all that. But that does not remove the essence of the fundamental rights as it is enshrined in various laws of countries. And in this context, in the Constitution and the African Charter and various treaties and conventions that Nigeria has ratified, which is why the misuse of these laws in a democracy is bad, not only for us as citizens, but also for democracy. If you can get into trouble jail and be charged for a crime for a statement that has been made, which in itself is not obscene, is not insulting. But because the recipient feels, and that is very important for us to understand it, the recipient feels insulted, then he activates criminal procedures against you. This sets a very difficult trend for democracy, particularly in Nigeria, where we have been known to have little tolerance, particularly those in public offices who have little tolerance for criticism of any kind.
But I'm trying to draw the line between a right and a nuisance and all that. And leaving that aside, do you think the laws that were enacted before the craze of social media and every other thing that has given people the opportunity to talk the way they talk and get into trouble in some instances, do you think the laws can also speak to the situation we find ourselves now? For instance, what was not insulting 10 years ago could be a very big insult now, but it's not covered by the law. So do you think we should start by tweaking a little bit about the law, or touching the law a little bit, or we should just start by saying we stop everything concerning trying to get people to pay for careless statements that they make? Do you think our laws can still stand?
That will not make for meaningful conversations, which, as you know, is very important to democratic practice. People have the right to exchange ideas. And it's very interesting that politicians, when they want to get the votes of people, use every available platform, including social media, to canvass for votes, including speaking against their opponents. And it is fine at that time until they gain political power. And then all of a sudden, the same tool and instrument they used to freely express themselves to the citizens becomes a tool that gets other people into trouble. And that is why we need to understand the concept of freedom of expression as a right. Its manifestations in various contexts, that is the use and the law, as it were. So to answer your question, yes, laws as tools of social engineering sometimes are slow to catch up with reality, and sometimes, depending on the aspect of each country's jurisprudence, sometimes the law also sets a precedent that society follows subsequently as part of the social norms. So you have asked, do we have laws that are adequate for the issues, these digital issues? Yes. The laws are not perfect. Laws are not meant to be perfect, which is why they are amended. And in this instance, judicial pronouncements it is one of the ways of amending laws, because the court has held that Section 24 conflicts with Article 9 of the African Charter and should be repealed. And that means that Section 24, as it stands today, of the Cyber Crimes Act, is null and void. It is not a law that should be used at all. The Nigerian government must obey that order of court. So, do we need to tweak the laws? Not necessarily so. What we need first and foremost within the context of our democracy is to have strong institutions that can apply the laws. I can tell you, Yango, that our laws are not perfect, but we have a much more bigger problem in the application of the laws by the various institutions tasked with this statutory duty. And that is what we need to fix first, even as we are in the process of amending the laws. And that is why you see the various manifestations of this misuse of these public institutions in one way or another. It's really becoming a matter of state capture. If we allow this to go on, it doesn't go well for democracy at all.
But this issue of strong institutions instead of strong people and all that is always a back and forth. It's a case of egg and chicken, which one came first and all that. What do you treat first and the others? An institution is governed by laws, and we have the laws. An institution is governed by rules, and we have the rules. But they still are not working. So what is that element that is missing that is making our institutions not to be strong enough? We have a constitution that people are clearly not following. The law enforcement agencies are flouting the laws themselves. The politicians are doing the same. Even the people themselves are doing the same, because no matter what you do, whether you're stealing from a government coffers or you're beating traffic because you think nobody's looking, a crime is a crime. So what is that ingredient that is lacking, that is making our institutions not to work the way they should work, and people are rather bigger than the institutions?
Thank you, Andrew. I will attempt to answer to define the cause of this malady. I would say it is the lack of political will from the highest office in Nigeria, from the president to that of the least. You have, as you've said, we have laws. The laws created institutions and created parameters for them to act, including providing for sanctions, whether for acts of omission and commission. So the question is, how far have those laws been implemented by these institutions? If you ask me, very weakly and very poorly. And that has led us to this point. And that again brings us back to the social contract theory. We all know that we have these rights, we have these powers as human beings, which is why they are called natural rights. But we've donated an aspect of this power to the state in this instance to enforce those rights on everyone, to protect everyone. So, but when the state becomes corrupt, when the state becomes inefficient, what you've seen is exactly what we're seeing presently as a country is what that leads to, which is why we need strong institutions that are not stronger than the law. We need strong institutions that obey the law. And institutions, of course, are not made up of robots. They are made up of people. The structures are made up of people, which is why we need every political officer, including the president, obeying the laws. But in a country such as Nigeria, where we see institutions of government, state governors, and individuals, public institutions disobeying orders of court, what do you expect? That is against the ingredient of the rule of law. It's against the core tenets of democracy, and nobody gets punished for it. We talk of corruption every now and then. We've seen individuals that have been found to be corrupt, they've been liable, and nobody gets punished for it. What do you expect? And so that is what has led us here. So rather than complain about the laws we have, which I agree with you is not perfect, we should talk about and really put our money where our mouth is to ensure that the institutions function. Again, the institutions are not stronger than the law. They must operate within the confines of the law. It means even the judiciary is not above the law. They interpret the law, they enforce the laws. It means even law enforcement agencies, including the police, they are not above the laws. They operate within the confines of the law. But what we've seen so far is the exact opposite. And that, unfortunately, has led us to where we are presently in nearly every facet of human endeavor in Nigeria. It's so sad, really.
It is sad. I must congratulate SERAP for a milestone judgment that they have, and we hope that things will work. But while we talk about not gagging the people, we would also like to balance it. If you were to advise, because it's always been a problem, on the one hand, we'll be talking about people making careless statements. On the other hand, we're talking about the need to let people express themselves and all that. But there has to be a balance. At one point, Twitter was banned from Nigeria because of a statement that was made against the president. Whether that was right or wrong, but it tells you that there is a need for all of us to know, to respect ourselves in one way or the other. So if we were to advise on the kind of things to be put in place so that there will be sanity in the social media space and also there will be freedom of expression from the people, what would you advise that should be done? As we wrap up now.
Unfortunately, I will have to go back to what I said earlier. It means the institutions must work and operate within the confines of the law. We have laws already. The Constitution provides for rights, including freedom of expression, and also provide for the limits of those rights. And Section 6 of the Constitution is very clear. It gives the judiciary the powers to be the arbiter between providing rights and obligations and duties between individuals, between government agencies, and between government and the people. But the question is, if the courts give judgments and the government disobeys those judgments, what do you expect to have? So again, when you talk of social media and the need to govern that space, whatever that means, we have laws already. We have the fundamental human right that prescribes the limits of these laws. And we have defamation laws. We have all those in place. But how are they being enforced? Which is why you see criminal laws like Section 24 of the Cybercrime Act that can be used to hold people. They are being used more than any other law. And that is the sad, unfortunate thing that we've seen happening, which shouldn't be with democracy.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better? Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions. Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Okay, we sincerely apologize for that brief thing that happened. We're glad to be back. Kolawole, we are still with you, and would like to just wrap up with you very fast as fast as possible. I'd like to challenge Serap and ask you what you're really doing to make sure that you educate the people more about their rights and responsibilities, cultivate the habit of patriotism and every other thing that we need, because at the end of the day, it is not the institutions that are not having the requisite things that should make them work. The laws are there, the rules are there, and everything. The buildings are there, even though that is not what we should describe as the institutions when we're talking about it. But what are you doing? What is your plan to make sure the citizens come up to speed and even help in the fight that Serap has been fighting all along to make our country, our climate, everything saner, as everybody likes to say, saner climate and all that. Nigeria should move from where it is to another place, a higher pedestal. So what is your plan to make sure the citizens are up to speed with what you've been doing, the fight you've been fighting, and to stand up to their responsibility? Very briefly, please.
Thank you. Public enlightenment is also a critical part of their advocacy initiatives, which is why this kind of letter to the government is what we call a two-pronged advocacy. It informs the government and calls on them to fulfill statutory obligations, and also reminds the people of the rights and the duties and the obligations that they have. Even this conversation that we are having presently also fulfills that very important obligation. It is enlightening people, it is educating them, and calling on people to obey the laws. So that is what we do as part of our initiative. And I really felt that now when your freedom of expression was briefly taken away, you understand how it feels when freedom of expression is stifled in any way.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Kolawole Oluwadare, for coming to enlighten us on what is happening. And everybody that needs to collaborate will collaborate with you. Keep doing the good job and make sure you do more to enlighten us as well so that we can help you in that fight. Thank you so much for being a part of our program today.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we've been talking with Kolawole Oluwadare, a Deputy Director of Serap, and we'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll be talking to another guest. Stay with us. Okay, this is Plus Politics, in case you're just joining us, and my name is Nyamgul Agaji. The elections have come and gone. A lot of people may be aggrieved, but now we should be talking more about the healing process of our community, of our society, and what do we do about that? Why do the things that even happen in Nigeria happen? We're glad today we're being joined by a political scientist who is going to help us x-ray some of the things that need to be addressed by the incoming administration come May 29. And it's my pleasure to welcome today Mr. Fred Noho, a political scientist. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, this moment. You know, we've had this election, a lot of people are aggrieved, a lot of people are saying it didn't go the way it should go, even though some people may not be complaining that they lost, the people that they supported lost. They're talking about transparency that was not there, so many issues. But now, a major issue that we should be addressing is how we can heal as a country. Let us just get to know, in your opinion, some of the things that we need to start putting in place, even before the inauguration, so that we can move on as a country.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, as a society, as Nigerians who are not new to things like this, it's been like part of us since 1960. We've had series of, you know, issues that has bedeviled our society, our politics up to this moment. Yes, I would have thought that by now we would have, you know, outgrown some of these ills, you know, that affect our society in terms of politics and all of that. But here we are. Well, what's done is done, but again, we must move on. And then, because, you know, society must continue to grow, whichever way you look at it. So some of the things we need to do to heal the wound is, you know, to actually try to talk to the people, the Nigerian society, the common man who do not see as much as the big man out there sees. Because the problem, the reason why we have issues in society is that there's gap in understanding. Once there's gap and those gaps are not being filled, people tend to feel in certain ways, and that leads to, you know, conflicts of issues, and further leads to, you know, what we can call violent confrontation. So first and foremost, we've conducted election. We've seen winners. Those people who has won must see themselves as magnanimous, you know, winners, and they should also be able to talk to the Nigerian society, talk to the Nigerian people, make them feel that, okay, I understand that we have issues, and that the election that has brought us this far is not totally free of, you know, certain ills. So that you need to actually assure the Nigerian society that there is need to tackle certain things in the society that those who have won, will, at the end of the day, attend to those things that seems to divide us more than unite us.
Okay, using Delta as a case study, because you're from Delta, would like to know the political climate in there. Some people before the election were complaining a lot about the governor, who eventually was the running mate to the PDP presidential candidate, Okowa, and they were saying a lot of things about how he could have done better and all that. So in your opinion, if he failed to satisfy the people, I'm not saying he did, but if he failed to satisfy the people, or if the people saw that he failed to satisfy them, even though he did his best, what do you think were some of the things that were missing that he could have done better, that whoever is taking over from him should do? Because everybody would just be thinking someone who is contesting as a vice presidential candidate in an election, you will even win like 100% in your state. It didn't happen that way in Delta State. No. So which means some people still felt that he didn't deserve it. So what are some of the things that he could have done that the next person would do or should do?
Okay. Delta State is more like a micro Nigeria because it has, the last time I checked, about 5 or 6 different, you know, nationalities in there. You have the Jos, you have the Isokos, the Yorubas, the Chekiris, the Ndokwa, who are also in their own rights fragmented into different people, you know, because the Ndokwa people are part of the Igbo people, but if you ask the Ndokwa person, it tells you he's not an Igbo person. So we have different people in that place. To be fair to the government of Okowa, he has, in certain ways, done well, because if you compare his administration to the one before himself, you will see a little bit of, you know, improvement in what he has done. But I like to say that it's not important for, it's not really possible for any government to try to you know, satisfy everyone in any society. It's impossible, no matter how good you are. And so to that extent, well, some people will feel that he hasn't done much. But you know, most times, when we respond to issues of politics in Nigeria, we tend to respond based on our political affiliation. So you tend to see that a man in Party A will always not speak well of Party B, even if they are doing the right thing. But you also find that the man in Party B will always speak good about Party B, even if they are not doing the right thing. And so most times our response is colored by where our interest lies in politics. Oborevwori is there today. He has been elected, the incoming governor. I wish him well in whatever it is he's going to do. But I also would like to suggest to him that part of the things that the present administration did that a lot of people didn't get to know about or didn't feel good about is that the reason is mostly because civil servants try all the time, always try to hijack those things. For example, this government did something about, they did a lot of empowerment to young people, But if you ask yourself, who are the beneficiaries of those empowerments? They are usually younger ones to civil servants, politicians. My brother must be there, my sister must be there. And you find that at the end of those empowerment, those who got starter packs end up, selling those things right there. So if I trained you on how to, for example, on computer, for example, and I gave you a laptop and a few others, a printer to kickstart your business, and right there you sell it, then the idea, the reason for the training is actually lost. Because it means that whatever monies that have been invested in you, you are not going to plow back into the society. The idea of why governments give, train people and say, okay, I'll give you a startup package, should be able to encourage, cottage industries, small businesses, that at the end of the day, we end up employing one more person. Because if you have two people that are earning something from a particular business, those two people end up, affecting other people, which is the chain at the end of the day. My advice to Oborevwori is that if he has to do anything, he has to find a way to ensure that whatever he does are not being hijacked by, one, politicians, secondly, civil service people, who are almost all the time, influence who become a beneficiary at the end of the day.
Okay, let's move to the national scene as it is. A lot of times people do so many things. Corruption that we're talking about, sometimes we point at only politicians and we leave the ordinary man, the civil servant and all that out of it. But we know that corruption is in every sphere, especially in this Nigeria. I don't know about other climes. I'm talking about the country, I know. But what we fail to address is not the corruption itself, but the reason some people behave the way they behave. Why would a permanent secretary steal? Why would a cleaner or a messenger not find a file in an office? Why do these things happen? What do you think that the next administration, the national I'm talking about now, should do to make sure that we begin systematically to fight this corruption?
Well, Nigeria is a society that has bred more of powerful men than powerful institutions. What works for America is not a powerful man. It is an institution, a system that, you cannot avoid but key into. We have, corporations in Nigerian society, SPDC, Chevron, and all of that. The man that works in Chevron or Shell, and the man that works in our civil service or the minister, there's no difference. They are the same Nigerians. But why the man in Chevron, the file comes to his table, he pushes it on. He pushes immediately. He does his part and moves it to the next person. The man in the civil service just keeps the file there because there's even nothing to show that the file got to his table in the first place. So nothing tracks it. because it is manual. Whereas in SPDC, it's automated. You don't push, hard files. You push soft files, so that when we begin to locate where is that file, a click tells you that this file is on that table, and in fact it has been on that table for the past 48 hours. So if you know that there's a file on your table that you need to deal with, and that if you fail to deal with it in the next 48 hours, you're going to get a query, you want to deal with it immediately. But that doesn't happen in our civil society, civil service. Because at the end of the day, we always want to get something before we push the file. So the problem with our government is actually system, because the system has not encouraged the man to do what he should do. Year in, year out, you find budgets, national budgets, with billions voted for computers. But go to these offices. Do they really use the computers? Why is it that I, who is not a member of the civil service, cannot in my own house type something and query that particular office and I get a response? Why should I have to leave my house to go to that office to do things? So these are some of the things that are bedeviling our society.
But when you say someone has to ask for something before they can do a thing, are they not paid salaries? And when you retire, you don't get your pensions and all that.
That is another thing. For example, currently, what is the take-home of the lowest earner in the civil service? 30,000 naira. In some cases, less. How much is a bag of rice? It's about 40,000. So the man cannot even afford to buy a bag of rice in the first place. The man cannot even afford to live in a house in the first place. He has to rely on that salary. So that is why we say the corruption in Nigeria is systematic. It's systemic stuff. It's a systemic process, because the system that treats you, the reward system, does not treat you in such a way that you cannot live above certain things, above certain threshold. It keeps you down perpetually. The highest salary earner in the civil service may not earn up to 200,000. I doubt it very much. But if you earn 200,000 naira in today's economy, and you have 2 kids in the house plus you and your wife, that's 4 of you. You need a bag of rice in the house for 30 days. You need to buy gari. You need to clothe the children. You need to pay their school fee. You need to pay school rent.
You need to transport yourself to and fro. Even if you have a car, you have to fuel it.
You have to fuel it. So how does 200,000 naira take you home? In the first place, it's going to be difficult. Yet we have people who earn 30,000. We have people who are in director cadre, earning not more than 100,000. So the system has, in certain ways, built in those people psychologically that for them to get by and get by reasonably, they must be able to look for ways to augment whatever that comes to them at the end of the month. And where else will they get that from? But from their customers. And who are their customers? Me and you.
I like the way you put it, customers. We all have become customers. It's a matter of survival as it is, no matter what. So which means if we're looking at corruption, we can't just be looking at the people who are doing it, but we'll be looking at the reason behind their doing it. A psychological thing. That's a very strong way to get addicted to something, as it were. But how can we start this consciousness, this national consciousness, this awareness, to speak to the people how to do better? What medium can we use to do that?
Actually, in Nigeria, as it is today, actually preps you to become very poor. And so you spend 30 years of your time, or 35 years, or 60 years at 60, whichever is the case, to work for your government, and by the time you retire poorer than you were when you started your career. In addition to that, your severance benefit may not even get to you until you die. In fact, you may die in the process of asking for that particular thing.
Yeah, right now, I just lost a sister who retired like 4 years ago, and she didn't have her benefit, and she's gone.
So why should that be? And so some people in the civil service have come to think about it. Okay, so here we are. We have governors who's been governors in their respective states, and they only have to be there for at maximum 8 years. And when they leave with hands-on perks. Just 8 years with hands-on perks. But I've spent my entire life here trying to make the system work. I leave, the governor does not even think about me when he's leaving. He does not think that I need to get my retirement benefit the minute I leave the system. So I keep coming back to remind him every day.
I think this is the time we need to start, first of all, building that conscience in the Nigerian person. I remember very well when we were growing up, after the Civil War, we were having movies, cinemas that were coming, those ones that use white clothes, you know, and projectors and all that, to show us the effects of wars, so that everybody, whether you witness the war or not, if you watch those movies, it will tell you that a war is not something you must think about at all.
Yes.
So there is that propaganda that is positive enough. I think we should start telling our stories and talking to ourselves using the arts and everything that we have at our disposal. Our music is like one of the greatest in the world. Our movies are also only next to Hollywood and all that. Why not we use these avenues to begin to tell our stories and talk to ourselves as well? Fred has done his part. I'm hoping that you too will do your part. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here.
And with that brief discussion with Fred Noko, political scientist and author, we wrap it up on the show today. We thank you so much for being there. Stand up to your responsibility and be the Nigerian that you are supposed to be. Let's build our country together. My name is Nyamgul Aggaji. On behalf of the entire team saying thanks for being there and have a wonderful night.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to. My name is Akin Adeoya. Let me add my voice to this laudable project, the Good Old Days series. My major focus will basically be on my passion for reading while growing up, the extent I went in funding this habit, lessons learned, and values associated with the correctional methods employed by my dear mother of blessed memory. How did this adventure into Storyland begin? My earliest memory of how it all started was my mom gathering us for informal afternoon and weekend storytelling sessions. She would tell us the irresistible and fantastic stories by authors like Sir Rider Haggard, King Solomon's Mines, by Shakespeare, The Merchant of Venice, and the like. Yes, she clearly had fun telling these stories with the way she used to repeat the names of some of the characters with emphasis. Tuala the King, Gagool the Wish, Captain John Good. Firstly, let me share what I call my carton room experience and how it shaped my views in my growing up years. Though of Ifaki Kiti origin, I grew up in Sapele and Lagos. The carton room was a room devoted to storing hundreds of cartons of Skol beer, either empty or full, because my mom used to be a beer distributor for an Ughelli-based company called Superbrew, and even ran a chemist on the side. At the same time, she was a nurse, a midwife with Sapele Health Center. The carton room was my secret hiding place. I loved to go there and do things privately. At just about 12, I already had a whole need for privacy. You see, the many cartons provided a million hiding places for my secret things. Not all the things I did there was bad. That was the room, sitting among the scattered cartons and bottles, where my innocence was shattered, reading hundreds of Pulp Fiction novels and plays. In that private world, nothing outside mattered. All I wanted to do was get up and run to the neighborhood bookshop to get the next James Alley Chase or some Pacesetter paperback. In my mind, I had an easy familiarity with America, England, Vietnam, Russia, and many of the great cities of the world. Even though I had never been there, I was a citizen of the world by virtue of my readings. My eventual adventure into African stories gave me a powerful sense of identity. From Chinua Achebe's Arrow of God to Ngugi wa Thiong'o's The River Between, Grain of Wheat, Kamala Laye's Weep Not Child to Aiki Uyama's The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born. It was a wildfire of politics, mystery, romance, war, and peace, all in the mix. Mine was the story of a young man in formation. Let me quickly reveal that I also love to steal into Olympia Cinema, which used to be very famous in Sapele at the time. It was at the very end of Okpe Road, the most commercial road in Sapele, to watch Indian movies and other popular American movies. I also had a once-in-a-lifetime experience of watching the epic by Hubert Ogunde titled Jayesimi. This was in the early 80s. How does the 12-year-old finance this rich taste in books, music, and culture? I started by helping myself to leftover coins on the table, by the bedside, in the pockets. I became bolder in my desperation to finance my addiction. I would pop into Dad's room and rummage through his jacket. Sometimes I would watch Mommy's use milk tin, where she used to keep money from sales. Many times I was caught in the act, and then my parents, both of them, would unleash hell. I would get an insane flogging with the used fan belt of my father's car. It was terrible. But my mother could see that the beatings were not working, that the stone in my heart was gradually becoming a diamond, and that if nothing was done, this boy could go over the edge. One day she caught me red-handed, then walked into the carton room, looked straight into my eyes and asked, "My son, Aki, should I kneel down for you?" This struck me as very odd and I stiffened. I could see the tears well up in her eyes and it almost broke my heart in two. How can I cause her so much pain? This woman that I love so much. It was this time a different kind of fear, born of love and admiration. She continued, "Don't you know it is very wrong to steal? That's why I want to kneel down to beg you to stop. It will destroy your life if you don't stop. Pause and touch me. That's why I want to kneel and beg you to stop. Let me kneel." I was alarmed that she would do it. It suddenly occurred to me that this wasn't a game between me and my parents, that there was something much bigger at stake. It was my very first attempt to grasp the eternal conflict between utility and morality. Until this day, I can still hear the clanging as the coins dropped. "You must promise me never to do this again." And that was it. One amazing thing about her was she never doubted my word. And also, I never lied to her. Lessons learned. If your child lies to you, that means you must have been overreacting to his past errors. Take it easy, parents. Now, let's leave those childhood fantasies and talk about the reading culture. How many of our children these days crave for reading books and stories that can enrich their knowledge and broaden their views on global matters? Do we even have mentors who are willing to ignite the youth's passion for reading? Just like my mother did, I once read a sad commentary that if you want to hide an item from an African, you don't want him to find it, hide it inside the book, because it will never open to read it. So sad. That was not the norm in those good old days. How did we get here? How or when did that passion and quest for knowledge take flight in our lives as a nation? What do we need to do to bring back those scariest good old days when we compete with the number of books read and not with the number of social outings attended? Is it too late to change the narrative? No. We can bring back that reading culture. Our children must not only be told these stories, they must be made to read them. The will to make the difference is all we need. Our children certainly deserve a brighter and better tomorrow, not the good old days. I therefore join Sir Shemore Badijo in this collective drive towards a greater tomorrow. Thank you.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
for me, I wanted to change that culture. I didn't believe that until you see a white man or you see a foreigner in the kitchen before you can believe that, you know, good food is going to come out of that kitchen.
You can leverage on each other's spaces and, you know, sell. We believe in Nigeria, right? We believe that Nigeria can get better. We, the youth, are the ones that can make it better.
And my products are proudly made in Nigeria.
Made in Nigeria, showing every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. and repeats on Saturday at 8:30 a.m.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. I am Osayo Miss Sally, and today, Jenna Baby and Chinelo. Hello ladies, how are you doing? You're live with me in studio. How is the week starting?
How's it going over there?
Monday, today is just a long day for me. Oh. Up and down, up and down. But we're not there yet. But how are you doing?
I'm fine, but Monday for me, it was a chilled, busy Monday. I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah. I mean, I didn't have to go, but I had a lot of brain work to do, a whole lot of brain work. So I was exhausted at 3 p.m. and I'm just like, you know what? Nah. And I just shut down. I'm like, okay, let me wait till I have to go to
I had fish pepper soup, so I'm good.
Of course.
Because I was so hungry and I didn't want to eat junk. I said, okay, what's the option? It's a fish pepper soup.
It's been long I had fish pepper soup.
Ah, really? You need to taste this one.
That's like
I've been craving afang soup.
Ah, afang.
I think I know where I want to get it. It's just the strength to go there to get it. That's where the problem is. I don't think those food apps have that particular restaurant. Maybe they do. I've not checked. But I'll check. Maybe I'll eat afang soup
Afang is
not
Pay me,
too
let me
bad.
make it for you. I make the best afang actually. Yeah.
Chinelo, you're just saying this. I'm not talking to you again. Until I see a bowl of afang soup before we reconcile. All right, so we want to introduce something we call the Office of the Citizens. Remember, we'd had the founder of Enough is Enough, that's Yemi Adamolekun, on the show. And we said we want to partner with her to discuss issues that, you know, I think going forward, if we want to hold our leaders accountable towards good governance, there are some things that we need to start to learn as citizens. And here are a few. I think Chinelo and Jennifer, you want to just quickly run through them? Chinelo.
Yeah, so my rights, I have a fundamental right to life, dignity of my person, personal liberty, fair hearing, private and family life, freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, freedom of expression, peaceful assembly and association, freedom of movement, freedom from discrimination. I have the right to acquire and own immovable property anywhere in Nigeria. And then my responsibilities, one of my responsibilities is to abide by this constitution, respect its ideals and its institutions, the national flag, the national anthem, the national pledge, and legitimate authorities. My responsibility is also to be a proud Nigerian, to help enhance Nigeria's power and reputation, to defend Nigeria and render such national service as may be required, to live in unity and harmony, respect the dignity, rights, and legitimate interests of other citizens, and lastly, community engagement, to make positive contributions to the progress and well-being of my community.
So to continue on that, some of the responsibilities for me should be support law enforcement, and this means to assist appropriate and lawful agencies in maintaining law and order. 6, pay taxes, declare my income honestly to appropriate and lawful agencies and pay my tax promptly. In addition, participate in the governance process. And there's an acronym for this, which is RSVP. R stands for register to vote. S stands for select credible candidates. V stands for vote, not fight. P stands for protect your votes on election day and engage government officials after election. Then we also have where you can meet the Office of the Citizen chat box. You can ask questions on how to know your elected officials, the governors, the senators, the House of Representative members, State House of Assembly members, local government chairman.
Interesting. Interesting. I thought we had some creatives that they were supposed to flash whilst you were, reading your...
the rights and responsibilities.
Yeah, the rights and responsibilities. Yeah. So I just want to add that the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. So you need to understand that your security and your well-being is supposed to be a primary responsibility of the government. So if they are not doing that, it means that you are not being paid attention to. And as a citizen, you have every right to begin to question your government. You begin to, ask questions, look for your elected leaders, engage them. That's the whole idea. So we're going to be doing a lot of this, in partnership with Enough is Enough. We're going to be putting all of them, together. So that's it. So when today we're discussing governance again, in line with our Monday theme. We're discussing governance, and we want to talk about what we need to do as young people, leveraging technology and seeing how we want to push, technology.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, then go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshuke.
Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Events is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely. Right, no question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, I know.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild.
This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity.
No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, according to a well-being article by Prince Will Ene, any nation whose leaders are not accountable to its citizens will find it difficult to grow and develop. Now, accountability is one of the cornerstones of good governance in developed nations and in leadership roles. Now, it is the acknowledgement and assumption of responsibility for actions, products, decisions, and policies, including the administration, governance, and implementation within the scope of the role of employment position, and encompassing the obligation to report, explain, and be answerable for resulting consequences. Now, the lack of accountability in Nigerian leadership is clear, and it goes without saying that this has made our nation stagnant in growth and development. Now, the question is now, what role do you think citizens should play when it comes to public accountability, and how can we start to take our country back from those who are meant to be serving us but are not. Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-4663. You can also tweet at us at Wayshow Africa1 with the hashtag Wayshow. So I'll bring in Yemi in a minute, but I just want to hear your thoughts quickly. Jennifer and Chinelo, what do you think? Can citizens truly hold our leaders accountable?
If we're ready, yes.
Really? Okay.
If we're ready, yeah.
Jennifer, how about you?
I feel like a large percentage of the citizens will not be able to, because they don't even hold themselves accountable most of the time, because you see people acting anyhow or constituting nuisance, and then when you call them out on it, nobody wants to be accountable for their actions. People start to have amnesia or start to act brand new when some things happen. It's like, I just literally saw you do this, but you're not going to take responsibility for what you did. Like, I mean, look at the story you just took now. If you actually spoke to the managers and stuff like that, even the manager, the other guy who the vigilante, and then you ask them questions, they probably come up with, he did this, that was why I did this. But I mean, you're supposed to take responsibility, you're supposed to own up to it. So yeah, honestly, I don't think so.
You know, one thing that keeps ringing in my head is how knowledgeable are we as citizens to be able to even understand what it is that we should be asking
for?
Yemi Adam Moleko currently serves as the executive director of Enough is Enough Nigeria, a non-partisan network of individuals and organizations committed to building a culture of good governance and public accountability in Nigeria through active citizenship. Yemi has a 23-year diverse career spanning the public and private sector in the US and Nigeria. She volunteers for Kaleyewa House, an NGO founded by her late mother focused on the elderly. And in 2018, she was named as one of the most influential people of African descent, that's MyPad, endorsed by the United Nations in the humanitarian and religious category. And she's joined us live in studio. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for honoring our invitation. We always love it when our guests honor our invitation. Thank you so much. It's your first time here, actually.
Yeah, it is.
Welcome. All right, so Yemi, I mean, this conversation, I think this is coming off of the back of the elections, first of all. You know, before the elections, it was go get your PVC, go get your PVC, even though some of us were hampering and shouting that PVC is not the solution. But hey, that was all we could fight with at that point. Get your PVCs. People got their PVCs, people went to vote, and a lot of, you know, things happened. Right? So now we're at the point where it seems like maybe, first of all, I don't want to choose the word hopeless, because I believe that as long as there's life, you know, there's hope, you know, but we are at that point where it seems like, you know, would we ever get to a Nigeria where leaders would just do what is right, you know? And it's a bit murky in my head because I can't see that clear picture. Because two things, I mean, I said something just now when Jennifer said it. I said knowledge. You know, citizens don't even know enough to want to even understand how they can start to hold the public officers accountable. We don't know enough. And secondly, right, even when we do, that part of, you know, like, is not affecting me directly. So let me just, you know, because Chinelo said we're not ready. And that's the truth. And when Jennifer talked about accountability, we begin to bend the rules. When it applies to me, it's no longer stealing. I just borrowed it, you know. But when it applies to somebody else, I give it a different name. So really, is it even possible for us to really attain that position where citizens will begin to truly take on that office of the citizens like you have on your shirt?
I mean, I think it's a combination. Again, thanks for having me. I think it's a combination of what Chinelo and Jennifer have said. Because ultimately, it's, there's a part of that understanding what it is to hold the leaders accountable. But there's also just right is right. I mean, it doesn't even have to get to leaders, just and in terms of personal responsibility. And we see it in everyday things. So I'm wondering, if I can't hold Chinelo or Jennifer accountable and they're my sisters, why would I suddenly understand or want to hold someone outside accountable? Or as we like to say, our anyhowness is okay as long as I benefit from it. I can sit in my house and get my driver's license without having to test if I can drive or go there. It's okay. But when a government official is driving down a one-way road, and be like, oh, those government people, they're so useless. Yeah. What's the difference? And so for me, it's literally, we need to be honest with ourselves around what we want. And because if you're clear about what, and just the same thing with life goals. If you're in a career, a job, a mother, whatever it is, if you're clear about what you want, then you plan to get it. Then you have clear goals, you have clear objectives. I want a PhD. I have to go to school. PhDs don't drop on people's laps. So it's the same thing with Nigeria. If we want Nigeria to operate at a certain standard in a certain way, then we need to be clear that it's not just about those we elect. It's also about how we run our lives. And if we don't hold those same standards, it's very hard to switch them on and off in a sense. And that's what we literally do, which is why I agree with Chinelo that we're not quite ready.
You know, I want to just take you back before I let Jennifer and Chinelo come in. Honesty. You know, we're so used to, like you rightly said, the anyhowness. We're so used to it that it's almost like, you know, when I hear you speak now. So when I was going to go and get my international passport, right? And the lady I was talking to, she was the head of customs then in the Festac branch, head of immigrations rather, at the customs. And she told me, oh, go to the bank, that just pay the fee. When you've paid the fee, we'll try to, you know. It was strange to me because I paid the exact fee. I paid how much is written there for my 10-year page passport and all of that. And there was no exchange of anything. I felt very strange. Because,
you were expecting something else to happen.
I was expecting something else to happen. So I needed to, you know, at some point I was like, maybe I should get her a perfume or something. Because I could not for the life of me understand why nobody's asking me for paying extra and all of that. Because I know how these things work. Right? We are so used to doing things wrong that it is difficult when we see that things are trying to be done right. For us to even accept
I think with Chinelo,
it.
Jennifer, that's it. When you're even trying to correct someone, they'll be like, what's your own? What is it? And so you are now the bad person for wanting to do the right thing.
So I don't even know. Why I'm even asking that is that how do we even begin to? Because now we're so used to that dishonesty that honesty becomes like very strange to us. You know, is it?
Well, I believe that, honestly, I believe there's still enough of us that know what is wrong or right. So you felt strange, but you didn't, if you wanted to get her a gift, it would be because you wanted to. She didn't make the demand. And you yourself, you are clear about that she didn't make any demands on you. You just felt that, wow, you're actually thanking her for not asking. It's basically what you did. But it's okay. And that's what the whole conversation is around. Are you gifting or is it a bribe? When is a bribe a gift? Blah, blah, blah. You didn't bribe her because she didn't ask you anything before, nor after. But if you of your own goodwill thought she provided good customer service, if we want to call it that, and you decide you want to gift her something, yeah, why not? But I think there's still enough of us that have sense, that know what is right. And that as hard as it might be, we just need to continue to demand it in the spaces that we control. And so that when people come, and we all have influence over people that work with us, people that work for us, family members, they will know that Auntie Uwa is a certain way, Auntie Chinelo is a certain way. They might be like, kind of attitude, but it sinks in because regardless of when you go other places or you have the opportunity to go other places, the things that you've experienced, they're there in your subconscious. They never go away. So I think that's the responsibility we owe ourselves, to decide that we will do what we know to be right. And the rest of society will catch up. But the flip side of it, though, is that it's very difficult doing the right thing and almost being penalized for doing the right thing. So you happen to have a nice experience. You paid, it was fine. But some other people will go there. My experience when I went to get my passport was slightly different. I'd done everything paid online. You should have seen the guy that I met, anger. Like, how dare you pay online? Like, he literally told me, so what do you want me to do now? Do your job, perhaps. He was that upset. Because obviously, because I've paid online and done the proper way, there was no opportunity for him to ask me to pay more. I've already paid. So he now tried to make the process a bit difficult. But he didn't know that madman meets madwoman. And I was just like, okay, it's not that deep. I should have come with that pay next time. I will do that. Can we now keep this thing moving? But it was interesting that he was very angry that I did the right thing. Now, for a lot of us, I mean, again, look at the sacrifice of time, part of how we justify it. And it's understandable in a sense, to be fair. process that should take me an hour takes me 2 whole days. Now, the cost benefit of my time is not enough for 2 whole days. So, but the fortunate part is that if you had asked, if you ask me to pay 100% premium for Express, I will gladly pay it. But let the money go into
straight into the coffers of the government.
True. But even the governments themselves, because they, yeah.
Let's leave it there.
Let's just pack it there.
Commence my reserve.
You know, let's just pack it there.
Honestly, I think as human beings, or let me use Nigeria as a whole, as a people, we are deeply rooted in corruption. And we've been so inbred, and we have this mediocre side of us as a nation where anything goes. And that's because a lot of us were born into mediocrity. We've seen the government, we've seen everything that is happening, and this is what you're used to. We've adapted to it. So now anything that looks out of place, which is supposed to be the norm, looks wrong. And that was why you felt wrong. Like, oh, why is this woman doing this? Because you're very surprised that someone could be so honest to actually want to do their job. We're used to people who aren't being responsible for what they are being paid to do. So even the government, I mean, it was this election time that a lot of us saw, at least we had a glimpse of hope. Until now, a lot of people's hope haven't died. Some have died, some haven't. I know people that I talk to and they tell you they've not given up hope. And there's a reason. There are people that I've spoken to just 2 days ago. A friend of mine said, he's not leaving this country, that is here, he will stay here, this country is going to get better. And it was amazing to see. It was amazing to see because he feels like things will get better. Something would happen. There will be a change along the line. But then if you look at the trend so far, especially from the presidential election to the gubernatorial election, you realize that a lot of people started to hold the government accountable.
Do you agree with that?
Yes. What do you mean by that?
So people were coming out to say, enough is enough. We don't want this anymore. You want to come into power, let's see your manifesto, let's see what you can do. People you want to kick out, who wanted to be re-elected, we started to ask questions. I mean, look at Lagos, for example. People asked. Now, we said, oh, there was so much competition, that's why the governor who wanted to be re-elected had to come out to list out everything that he had done. Do you understand? Exactly. I mean, before then, when the debate, when the debate was going on, we didn't see any of that. He didn't show up. But then he saw that people started asking questions. What have you done?
I'm not sure about that.
So I was going to say that. Is that enough? Go ahead.
I'm not even sure that it was that people were asking questions. Lagos was beaten in the presidential elections. So that was a very clear message that APC was not loved as they thought in Lagos. So if I want to win my re-election, I need to be here. And he'd been busy following his principal around. So he wasn't really here campaigning.
But why was APC beaten in the election in Lagos?
I mean, I could give a bunch of reasons. For some people, it was NSAS. For some people, it was because they impounded their cars and then sold it off. Some people, it was because they felt they were not working. For some people, it was because of security. I mean, Lagos has gotten significantly more unsafe under, what's his name?
So doesn't that translate to the fact that people were now holding the government accountable? It's like, yeah, we've been suffering for a long time.
My point is that you were saying asking questions. So the point is that they weren't engaging someone, they weren't trying to say, what will you do, or asking him. He was the one now offering to say that, and obviously using whatever he could. I have experience, I've done this for a while, let's continue the great work, yada, yada, yada. But I think part of the other side of really what you're saying is that also the environments we have doesn't penalize bad behavior.
True.
So parents talk about it with their children all the time. Your child wants to do something bad, they'll be eyeing you, like, move this thing. Did she do anything? Did she do anything? Did she do anything? And if you don't do anything, they'll press testing, and they'll keep pushing. And literally, that's, if we look at it, that's what we've done with
the government.
Just general bad behavior in society. At a point in our time, if a mother saw another child doing something wrong, you would correct. Or you would call out people if you saw them doing something wrong. People that I was looking for a word. We had shame. people would actually be a bit like I don't want to do that so I don't look bad. But now, anyhowness,
you cannot shame the shameless.
Let
me take a break. You know, I want to say that you cannot shame the shameless. I'm shameless, so leave me. You cannot shame me. But let's take a break, right? When we come back from break, I think Chinelo is itching to ask a question. Stay with us, we'll be right back. All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, if you just tuned in, we're discussing the citizens' role in public accountability with Yemi Adamoleko. Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-4663. You can also tweet at us at Wayshow after one with hashtag Wayshow. Chinelo.
Okay, so, I mean, you see this talk of citizens' role and all of that, right? Like, when you asked me, I said, if we're ready, because the truth is that we're not ready yet. You know, I always say this thing, this good governance that we're all clamoring for, we're not ready for good governance, because good governance would mean you eating biscuits in your car and not tossing the wrapper on the street. Because if you do that, I remember we used to have Kai, what they call those people, they used to arrest people for things like that, right? So are we ready for those kind of things? Now, okay, that's even on one side. We also know that when we talk about public accountability, that's supposed to be like the hallmark for democracy, right? Yeah. And right now, democracy in Nigeria is just a paper procedure, because we're not holding anybody responsible for their omissions, their acts. We're not for their adequacies and inadequacies. We're not saying anything about all of that. But now, let's even keep all of that aside. Let's assume now, right? We're about to start. We're entering a new, on the 29th of May.
New era.
We're entering a new era. We're starting off with a new president. In Lagos State, where we live, our governor has been re-elected, and you know, now, how do we move forward? How do we now start to hold these people accountable and say, look, Governor Sanwo-Olu, when you were coming back, you promised the Red Rail was going to be completed June 2024. How's that going to work? How do we start to ask these questions? How do we engage them?
Start by knowing them, number one. So we spend a lot of energy on president and governor. And it's understandable, because for the president, it doesn't matter if you're in Enugu or Taraba, we're talking about the same person. So it's easier in terms of noise and amplification. Everybody is on Buhari's matter, because he's our shared president. At the state level, it's also important, because everybody is talking Sanwo-Olu, 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 so it's also amplified. But for a lot of things, it's your local government chairman, really, that's responsible for it. And it's not as sexy a role. If you see the numbers, I mean, we talk about presidential numbers, then dropping percentage-wise at state level. By the time you're doing local government chairman elections,
it's horrible.
Maybe like 500 people came out to vote. It's terrible. But in a lot of ways, your local government chairman is actually responsible for things closest to you, from your markets to your street signs, to the gutter in front of your house, to some roads, to primary school education, to primary health care. That's all their bit. So I think the number one point is actually start by knowing who represents you. Number two, recognize that you have more impact in numbers. So if Uwa is a local government chairwoman, and I go and see Uwa and I talk to her, I say, oh, no problem, thank you very much, I'll look into it. And I go. But if 30 people from a part of her constituency come and see her, and she looks at them well, I'll be like, wow, okay. It's a bit harder for her to ignore. And so understanding that there's power in numbers, and not only the numbers of going to visit, but also the fact that one visit to Uwa is not enough. So therefore, if there are 30, 40 of us, let's say 5 of us decide that, okay, on Monday we'll go. And I have an actually interesting experience of that from Ikorodu. We used to have a radio show, or we still do actually, called No Wahala Monday. And the format of it is people call in with a problem, and our job is to help you solve the problem yourself. So it's not allowing you to vent. So you call and say something happening in your local government. This was in Ikorodu. At the time, Abike Dabiri was in House of Reps, and I was very excited because I knew she actually picks up her phone, or she engages. So send her a text or call her. She might not pick up your phone, but she'll return it. So when the guy said it was from Ikorodu, I was very excited. So I said, okay, Abike Dabiri is your House of Rep member. This is her number, call her. His first response was, really? I can call her. I was like, yeah, she works for you. Again, to your point about knowledge, we don't understand that there's nobody, both elected and appointed, all of them are employees. Because if not the fact that we elected them into office, they wouldn't have jobs. So I was very surprised that really, I said, yes, call her. And I was very excited because I knew she would answer. Not everybody does. And she did. She didn't pick up the phone, but he sent a text and she replied. So when he called, I think a week or two later, he was super excited that she had responded. And she told him what to do. I think it was about a road. Call this person, go and see this person, go and see. And what they then did as a community was they created a schedule. So the 3 of you will go on Monday. The 4 of you will go on Tuesday. 5. And they kept on it. And I think after a few months, that part of the road got fixed. So I say that to say that it's difficult work, but it starts with showing up and letting them know that you represent me and you owe me to speak to me. And your point about also teaching, we need to do a lot more about teaching people who is responsible for what. So your gutter is not Buhari's problem. Neither is primary school Buhari's problem. And so understanding who is responsible for what, holding and engaging. And I mean, we say elections, and that's part of the thing about elections, that it's a real threat to people in office because that's your time to say that you haven't done well. We are going to vote you out. But that narrative also has a shortcoming when there are no good options. But if you have other people in the race who are then a bit more engaging and say, I will do this, I will do this, it makes the choice a bit easier. But that's when people also vote by performance. And we're not voting because your hair is straight and your hair is curled, or you are yellow and you happen to be black. So yeah, so those are the things that are real and we can't run away from it. So and this goes back to your point. So if we're serious about good governance and people want to deliver, then I don't really care if you're yellow or black. I just need you to get the work done. But if I don't really care and I know that you are going to give me rice and something and you are going to whatever, then those types of things, or you and I will meet in church and you and I will meet in the mosque. If those things are still part of why, so not everybody, some of us vote. Those of us that the cost of our votes are a bit higher need to be a bit more engaged and also educate, like our spheres of influence. How are we engaging the people who are in our spheres of influence to understand how their votes affect their lives?
Yeah. So I like that part because you kept on saying education, education. Part of one of your mandates with Enough is Enough is to educate, and ensure voter participation. There was a lot of energy this year. I mean, the energy that happened with the elections this year, I don't think I've seen it any in the history of my voting, right? There was a lot of energy, and like you rightly said, a lot of factors played out. The NSAS, a lot of things. So the youth were really, really, really engaged. So, but how do we maintain this momentum, right? Because it's one thing for us to be upset now as Nigerians, and we quickly just die the energy. The energy just goes quiet. It's just like Jimmy Agbaji coming every 4 years, She can't I can never get another man. You know why it now made it more obvious when Jeremy was running for the race for governorship. That's what it now made so obvious. Because I've been saying it that man is not serious about governorship. But everybody kept on saying no. I said he's not serious. Because now when Sanwo-Olu saw real competition, he was selling ice cream, he was doing different things. So there is the energy, the momentum that has been, there's an awakening that happened, right? Yeah. How do we maintain that tempo, right? I get you because there's a part of the education, knowing who is supposed to do what. We don't know that one. We are very, very illiterate. We are very illiterate when it comes to political issues, right? That's why that politeracy that Kule Lawa is teaching us, we're learning. But we don't know anything about governance. But I want us to also maintain that tempo because that energy that we have as young people now being really involved in what is happening, right? So they talked about voters' participation and we came out, we participated. So how do we now participate in governance? Right, ensuring that everybody that have been elected or selected, those people, we are on their toes. We are making sure that we keep them on their toes.
I think we need to think of ways to build community around accountability issues. So, and probably the more local, the better, so you can see results. Because if all of us are facing the president, then it's a bit harder to hold him, if I want to use that word. But your local government chairman in office, and we can find his house. Your house of rep. I mean, at a point in time, I remember a conversation I had with, should I say his name? I won't. A house of rep member in Lagos. And he was teasing and said, you people, you will come to National Assembly and be protesting. We'll be looking at you from the window. And when you're tired, you'll go home. I said, don't worry. The time will come when we won't come to the National Assembly.
It's your house.
It's your house. You should have seen his face. Literally, he started shaking. And my sister now, but why? And there's no, come to Abuja. No, Abuja is very good. You know, all of us are in Abuja. You can see all of us at once. I said, no, you are my rep in Lagos. So let me just come to your house. Because literally, and if you think about it, for a protest in Abuja to have impact, you need numbers. For people to really feel that things are happening. But in front of your house in where you are, there's just 100 people. And we don't need to shout. We just go there.
Come and sit down.
You carry
cam gas. Begin the cook rice.
It's your wife that will tell you, I want to go out. Can you deal with this? So that when in small, because it's smaller to manage, and just begin to say that, okay, you, my House of Rep member, you, my senator, you, my local government chairman, you are our project. So what are the things that we want? Specific things. It doesn't have to be long. We want you to do 4 things. Okay. So this is the plan that we're going to have. And it's just organizing. So it's organizing at a more macro level, number one. Organizing without cameras. Because I think part of the things that ends as maybe a side effect of it is that people got used to the buzz. We're on social media, we're on TV today, TV tomorrow. By the time you start organizing in local communities, how many times are you going to be on news? So also getting used to that level of grunt work.
That you don't have to bring the camera. It's not everything that is for the gram.
That's it. There's really no need. Because actually, first of all, you'll be tired. Because there's no gram-worthy moment today. You come back tomorrow, there's no moment again. We need something for the gram. So if the gram is driving you, you'll be frustrated. So that as well. And then layered obviously on that is the point you made about education. Because it's in understanding whose role is what, that you then know what to demand. And one of the things as an organization we're committed to doing this year is do a bit more storytelling around success stories. Because we also realize that for when people hear that citizens engaged their duty bearers and got results, it's like, oh, okay, it changes them exactly. So we want to tell it, because there are those stories. They might not make 10 o'clock news or whatever it is, but the stories do exist. So if we want citizens to do more, then let's show them examples of citizens who have. And who have been successful.
So how do we go about this education? Are we going to empower the media houses or individuals, companies, organizations?
Several platforms. So media houses, for example, also need to decide that this democracy is important enough to them that they're willing to give some of their airtime for education. At a point in time, EIA had radio programs in 33 states.
Wow.
And in building those programs, in talking to radio station owners and managers, I kept saying, you cannot charge me the same thing you charge a bank or a telco. I don't make money. I'm not a profit-making organization, so I'm not declaring, if you look at their own records, they're declaring billions as profit. I run a non-profit. I rely on the goodwill of others to fund the work that I do. So you can't give a telco a bill of X and give me that one. It won't work. And for me, it was a bit frustrating to have to fight that fight. What am I selling? I'm selling citizens' rights. I'm selling know your rights so you don't go to jail. So why it's the same person who is selling something for them to make money, you want to charge me the same thing? So I think media platforms have a huge responsibility to work with non-profit organizations in creating, it doesn't have to be a lot. It can be 30 minutes a week or 30 minutes a day. Give something that allows citizens to be educated. That's one. Another channel is religious organizations. I tell people, Christians or Muslims, you will hear your pastor or your imam more
At least
times.
Twice a week.
And that is more times in a year than you heard Buhari in 8 years.
True.
Very true. Even plus Buhari plus some, for those of us in Lagos, plus your government. So if you have a captive audience like that, how are we using that? Again, you go to church or the mosque to be edified and fellowship and all of that, but 5 minutes of civic education, would that kill anybody? And then our school curriculums. We need to change our school curriculum so it's part of, we're now talking about civic education and all of that, but I mean, the last time I looked at the curriculum, I was like, yeah. So working with our curriculum to improve it. And I think the people who actually have the best opportunity to do that are private school owners. Because not only do you teach the regular curriculum, you also have the prerogative to add to it. And then a lot of organizations that do extracurricular activities, working with children, and maybe let me land on that. Maybe we also start a bit earlier. So rather than focusing maybe necessarily on adults, you start with 16, 17,
even 5-year-olds, yes. Just create the curriculum to fit there. For them to be able to absorb it as basic as that.
Exactly. And as you grow older, you need curriculum that empowers your stage, so to speak. Yeah.
That's very fantastic. Storytelling, I love that idea of storytelling, because I think, again, you know, if people see that it's possible, you know, oh, this person actually went, like you rightly said, the guy said, oh, I called and she picked. And if people see that it's possible and somebody tried it, we said, well, let's go to our own local government. Because I just believe that, you know, we've been fighting wrongly. You know, they say insanity is definition of doing the things, the same thing, and expecting a different result. That's what we've been doing. So why don't we, you know what, whoever you want to select or elect is not our headache. Shall work. That's the thing. Like, let us just, don't worry, you've selected yourself, no problem. We will make you do the job. Yes. You know, and I think, you know, with what you've said now, it just makes a lot of sense. Yeah. You know, as little as, okay, for instance, maybe on this VI road now, legally, who is in charge? If there's anything, who is supposed to be clearing the gutters? Why do we have flooding and all of that? Yeah. When you gather that information, 3, 4, 5 people go and knock on their door. Come, let's go and pay him a visit. You know, it's very likely that you get more results. Yes.
Because they don't use. I remember the first time I called my senator. Right. Hello. Are you a member of APC? No. Are you a journalist? No. Okay. So I don't think he asked that. I'm sure he was thinking, are we related? But he didn't ask that. He didn't ask that one. So what do you want? I was like, oh, I'm Minnie Keja, you represent me, and I just wanted to know how you voted on this particular bill. See, shouting. How dare you? Who are you? I said, oh, God, it's not that deep. Calm down. Now, what was interesting then was that it was obvious that nobody had ever asked him. So he wasn't used to being asked questions. What did you do? I was like, sir, I'm just trying to understand because you are there voting on my behalf. So I just wanted to know how you voted and Kiniko. So we went back and forth a bit until I think we now came to a happy medium. And I think a few times after that I called, hello, my sister, how are you? It's how we ended the matter. But the first call was very instructive because I was asking, he had never been asked and wasn't trained, if we use that, on how to respond. But I mean, this is probably like 8 years ago or so. So things have improved significantly, also because there's more awareness. Or social media in 2011, when after Jonathan's elections, and a lot of government officials came on social media. As they came, they ran. Why? Because they're used to TV or radio that's unidirectional. But on social media, Twitter especially, as you are talking, they're answering you. And Twitter, thank you. And Twitter at that time, I don't even know how many characters, fewer characters. So there's no time for your excellence.
You can't even explain. Just go straight to the
point. You lied. That's not true. So so that shock of, but then look, fast forward 12 years. You now have young people who have jobs managing those accounts. So we have made significant progress, but I think that level of engagement needs to become more than just social media. It needs to be real life.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about
and I think finally for us on Ways, how do we start to, because I like this idea you talked about storytelling and, you know, educating, 5 minutes education and all of that. Because again, we are here live Monday to Friday. Imagine if we're able to know. And honestly speaking, it's something that and again, for us on the show, it's not just because we want to be on TV. Let's really hit the issues where it matters, right? So how do we even engage and partner with you? Because I love this Office of the Citizen. You understand? Even though some people have argued that we are not citizens, we are just existing. We are not qualified to be called citizens. But how do we partner?
We are aspiring to.
Yeah.
We're happy to provide you content.
Okay.
For 5 days a week. Let us know. We'll give you content.
Because we really want to engage. We want to engage, you know, the citizens. We want to engage people.
Yeah.
Let's begin to, because all this fight back and forth. Me, I've moved on.
Yeah.
I don't cry. My eye don't swell up. I have told myself I'm never going to vote again. You know.
But it's and thank you very much. And we're very happy to do that. So Lagos, for example, has 20 local governments. So for example, we can take a local government per day. Highlight it. Who's the chairman? Where's the chairman's office? What's the role of a local government chairman? What are the highlights in your community? So even if that every day that you tune in, you learn something about governance.
Thank you.
Happy to provide content for that.
Awesome. Yeah. So we are going to be giving you content bars. Whether you like it or not, you must learn.
Yeah. And so at the end of it also, you cannot say you were not told.
Yes.
So you have the information. The fact, as you rightly said, you might choose not to use it, but you can't say you didn't. I mean, especially for those who watch Waze regularly, you can't say, okay, I didn't know. No. Every day we're telling you that this is what you can do and this is how you have power.
Then if you even have your chairman somewhere, maybe we are not there, maybe in Enugu or somewhere, because we have a lot of callers from different parts of Nigeria. You can send us the street name. We'll go and help you look for your chairman. Because that's the whole idea.
And we actually have, and I wasn't prepared to, I didn't prepare to talk about it. We actually have a WhatsApp bot.
Awesome.
That with your your polling unit information, it will tell you everybody that represents you. So by next week, I'll share with you, and you can kind of put the graphic up.
Please,
so it will tell you who your governor is, who your senator is, who your House of Rep member is, who your local government chairman is. And for all of them that we have their phone numbers, it will be there. For if you have your email address, we'll give it. If you have your constituency office, you'll get it. And all of it comes as a WhatsApp message.
Correct. Whether you like it or not, you will work.
And the beauty of it is that because it comes as a WhatsApp message, it's on your phone. So you're not having to look anywhere.
Don't look too much. And you cannot share it with all the people in your area. Oh God, we are there for them. Let's take comments quickly.
By the time the message gets to your phone, you see forwarded 100 times. This is Austin from Delta. For me, we need to hold our leaders accountable. But first of all, be a good citizen by holding yourself accountable too in that your little space. The social media platforms are veritable tools to use. If the road leading to your street is washing away shortly after commissioning, take a picture and post it. Calling out those in charge, both the government officials that awarded the contract and even the contractor who is a political bigwig living in that community. Was it not true the social media that some erring police officers have been fished out and punished? As we have situation room for elections, let us create a situation room for good governance.
Absolutely.
We shouldn't lose hope, please. I salute your guest today. I've watched her regularly in another TV station. She's highly cerebral in her thoughts. My greetings to her, please.
Thank you. Quickly.
Thank you, Austin.
Good evening, my dear beautiful stars of What Are You Saying? #Waves. I want to believe that citizens have the right to the government that they want. That is why we have the word democracy, and that is why we have elections. If the citizens don't have the true governance that they clamored for, then they should be held accountable. And that thing is that we need to have a thorough check of the manifesto of the person we are voting for and choosing. My dear beautiful star Chinelo asked the question. She said, are we ready for good governance? That question is very key. So good to have Yemi in the studio today. It's been a while. My name is Daniel Ilo.
Thank you, Daniel. Citizens' role in public accountability begins from our homes, families, and where the lessons of accountabilities are taught. But today we can see lack of accountability in public spaces because of failures in our family systems and homes. Parents and guardians do not take care of how their children and wards behave because they seem to close their eyes in their actions. They do not care about money, crazes, blah, blah, blah. Who cares how you become rich? Accountability must be demanded in our homes and from those we serve in public spaces. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Yemi Adamolekun. We had a fantastic, and we're going to be doing citizens engagement.
Yes.
We work. Now, before we go, thank you, ladies. Follow us across all our social media handles. Like, share, invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. Now, if you missed our quote for today, here it is again. It is not only what we do, but also what we do not do for which we are accountable. So everything. See you tomorrow at 8 p.m.
Bye.
Traditions, customs. These are the beliefs that have been passed down to us from generations. They're part of our culture. They give us a sense of identity. But some of them are harmful practices, especially to women. Today with my sisters, we're going to be discussing all about this. We have Chisom in the house, Fumi, Adeswa, Anne, and myself, Saudat. Please join us in a few minutes when we come back from the break. Welcome to TW Conversations.
So, welcome back. It's about traditions today. There are good ones and there are not so good ones. So with my sisters in the room today, we'll be talking about traditions that we need to probably shy away from or look for us to correct how they are actually applied or do away with totally. So I'll start with Adeswa.
Is it because I'm closest to you?
because you are Edo. Because it's
tradition is important to us. You're right. You're right.
So tell me, what do you think about tradition? What areas of the tradition can be better managed or applied or to be done away with?
You know what? I'd like to start first of all because I listened to Saudat's intro and it just put something in my head. I want to talk about how do traditions happen. Because you see, when you said Edo, Oba Atokpei, and we say Ise, there's a thing of pride.
What does it mean?
That's made the long live the king, and we said Amen. Yes. That's what it is. Ise.
Like they do in England?
God save the queen. So it says long live the king. You know, in my place, there's no question about the fact that if an Oba dies, it's his first son that takes title. In Edo land, if a man dies, you don't have to worry about going to court. It is the first son. That's why you find that, they say in my land, women don't stay in husband's house. Just go born firstborn here. That's one of the bad sides of it. Yes. Born firstborn boy here. Born firstborn boy here. So that
they take every...
So that, because there's no question. Anyway, but I mean, so really and truly, traditions, how do they start? It's from time. Why do we have this tradition? We're one of the oldest kingdoms. I proudly say the oldest kingdom south of Sahara. You know what I mean? It's age. With time, traditions build. She says ways people do things, they become a culture. They become a way of life. Yeah. So why don't we look, first of all, at some of the ones that can be negative? Off the top of your head, you are only 21.
In Edo, since you have told us about Long Live the King,
yes.
What do you think could be negative in that?
No, that's
because
one...
I spent my youth corps in Edo, by the way, and far back then, when the king died, you better stay in your house. There were very negative issues about people...
Stories.
...missing.
For example, this is true, you know, in the past. No, the truth is, in the past, when Noba died, they would bury him
with somebody now.
Yes, they would bury him with somebody. That was what it was, but with time.
But even in Ife Kingdom as well.
Ife is from Benin now.
That changed, which means that we can actually change some of the traditions.
Yes.
So now that we look at, there are some things we don't like that we're talking about today, it means one of the things is, can we change it? If it's bad for us, we'll change it.
Tell me some of the traditions that you think exist today that really should be.
would rather it changed.
Like in the Igbo culture, if your husband dies, you have to...
Widowhood practices.
Yes, widowhood practices. You have to bathe with... I don't think they do that now, but I know they used to. And I'm still sure that some places...
You've not said what they do.
They would have to drink the water...
Or that they used to wash the body.
Yes, that they used to wash the body of...
Why is that so? Why
because I think it's an affirmation to... know that you didn't kill your husband. Yes, your husband. And to me, it doesn't make any sense.
So if the wife dies, do they make the husband drink the water?
No.
Okay, so this is just for when the man dies.
Why don't we put this in perspective?
In fact, when you're talking about Igbo culture, today on the radio, as I was coming here, I heard when they were talking about this Osu practice, and the Igbo people have decided in Anambra State, this December that they're going to... So they've said, yes, they said they're going to abolish it. Now, even some people have had concerns that even when they say it's abolished, there are people that still have stereotypes and still say...
No, but you have to understand what an Osu is. An Osu is an outcast. Just like what you're talking about in Edo land, where, for example, when the king died, they would bury him with some live people. They were usually the slaves that were used for such things. And that's how it happened. And it's slaves that became...
notion.
Widowhood practices.
Widowhood practices. The bath water, because also I'm multicultural here. I'm multi-traditional. I grew up in the East quite a lot. The bath water, was it to prove that the woman didn't kill her husband, or it was just what was expected of a befitting wife of a dead man?
No,
because
from what you hear, I mean,
yeah,
from what I hear,
because because the notion we have to be careful that people don't.
Yeah, from what I hear, I think it's an affirmation. It's to clarify that the woman is innocent. Yes, doesn't have, especially when the man dies young, or they have like some issues in their family.
Can I share a personal example? Because I lost a brother. He was only 49 when he died, and he had a widow. Now, in my place, they say you should swear. That's in the Doland. You must swear that you didn't have a hand in what happened. And I remember telling my sisters, my sister-in-law then, she was afraid. I said, listen, let's go, because traditional things will happen. He was 49, people felt what could have killed him. All they want to do is to be sure that, and they said that you had to kill a goat. I said, you know what, don't worry. For as long as I am there, you will not do anything. And I ensured that she didn't do anything. However, they made her, because all they do, they have a council, they made her stand, and she said, okay, it's an affirmation. That, okay, is this your husband? Yes, he is. Do you have any hand in his death? No. Do you have children? Yes. How many children? 1 or 2 years. It's agonizing. Somebody is mourning and you're doing that. Yes, but you see, sometimes, because we had a little of a disagreement, I told my sister-in-law, just do it, because we don't want trouble. It doesn't take anything out of you.
To the men?
If it does, of course. I've never seen a man die. I'm talking about my example. I don't know what happens when a man dies.
Number one,
when a woman dies.
It shows that Adesua believed to a certain extent that we needed to respect what tradition wanted of us, but for us to manage it and not, open ourselves to very negative issues. I'd like you to expatiate on this issue of, is it always, anything that's done to the women, is it done to the men in the same situation?
Take FGM.
Yes.
Yes, because
female genital
if you look at a lot of the traditional practice that we're talking about, they're always against the woman. It's either we are going to suppress the woman, or you do not want her to be quote-unquote promiscuous. Or when they do circumcision for men, they do it for hygiene purpose. And if you look at the Bible and the Quran, and when they talk about circumcision, it's hygiene. But and there's no part that talked about circumcision for the women. Now, our practices in Africa, the circumcision for the women is about stopping her from being promiscuous, so that she will not have an orgasm, so that she will not do this and that. If you also look at breast ironing in some part of Africa, breast ironing, yes, breast ironing. It's called breast ironing, breast flattening. In Nigeria, is the people that are closest to Cameroon, because Cameroon have the highest case.
That's my people.
That's closest to Cameroon side, because Cameroon has the highest case in Africa. Now, the ironing with hot metal, grinding stone.
Will it not burn them?
Yes, between the ages of 10 to 19, when puberty, when the girl is growing her breast, they iron it, or there's another one that they tie the breast overnight. So that and they say so that you will not be attractive to the men. So that you'll be able to go. Those are the things that they use
I can kind of believe time. But ironing,
the iron
with hot metal, I mean, that's bound to...
They heat up banana leaves, they put it on the breast and they tie it. They get grinding stone, they use spatulas, so many things to grind it in different parts of Africa. The one in Nigeria that they do it a lot is that area that is close to Cameroon. Because we share a border town with Cameroon, yes. But a lot of Nigerian cultures don't really do that.
No, but you see, the point you raise, which is important, and I think you should respond to that, is a function that is for the women. Because I know that in Delta, among the Robos, female genital mutilation, they say it's for purity and for cleansing, so you can have babies.
Everybody has an experience.
So that's what I'm saying. So, but the point is, that's the driving factor. They think they've done you a good. What we are saying here, they've done you a bad. In your area, they have what they call the fattening room. It's a tradition. You knew I was going to say that. And they teach you how to be a good wife until tomorrow. Once you say you are from Cross River, everybody asks me, hey, she's a great cook.
Yeah.
Oh, she can take care of a man.
But to be honest, that is somewhat positive because I've never heard anybody say they had ripped your boobs apart or done anything intense to you. It's good in the sense that they teach you how to, so they teach you how to cook, they teach you about sex, they teach you about your body and what to do and what not to do. They teach you about childcare. So sometimes people have said that they've had experiences where it doesn't happen as much as, because I didn't go to fattening room.
Why not?
I didn't go to fattening room because it's no longer.
She's a Lagos girl.
So it's no longer that.
But this is
But
what
it's a
I
good
say.
tradition.
But it's
Exactly.
nice.
This is why I say there is good and there is bad. What she's just described is preparation
Positive.
for life
Yeah.
that made a lot. Well, I think people still have the impression that ladies from there would make better, attentive wives.
Yes.
So it was a preparation that, honestly, in my own mind, it's
very
something we
positive.
need to keep going.
Yes.
Even if we don't have that long time to do it anymore, what is wrong with sending somebody for preparation for a week so
point
that they
is-
get information?
Are you saying the boys? Do we do it to the men?
Look,
Look at you, do we do it to the men?
I'm actually just enjoying the conversation.
And you have nothing to contribute.
Can I ask a young lady?
Okay.
Would you like to have a preparation of the life you're about to step into? It's not going to mean you don't go to school. It's not going to mean it's a week. Just prepping.
How long
By
is
the
that
way, in the West, they have what they call the finishing schools.
Yeah.
Why? They're not about to go and make somebody a slave. They're just preparing them. Actually, I think it's good for somebody to be prepared for the life she's going to be exposed to. We'll come to the men thing, but
That is the
as a
question
young
here.
person, would you not think that preparing
important.
would be good?
I mean, I would love to do it just because I would. If it was a necessity, like, if they were going to force me to do it, I'd probably not be interested in doing it. Yes, because
of the force factor.
Yes,
Yeah,
just because of the force factor, I'll probably not do it. But because I know it will be useful and valuable to my future and the decisions that I
what you're
make.
saying is, so even when I didn't do it officially when I was getting married, I still had some sorts of that. So when you're getting dressed, there's a tradition where you put the combs through the hair and all of that. They tell you, at that point, they're talking to you. In fact, the lady that did mine was praying and doing all that
please
prep with me.
hold that thought, because we need to go on a short break at the moment. So we'll be back with more about traditions, the good, the bad, the ugly, when we come back. So welcome back. We're still in the lounge where we're talking about our traditions. And while we continue the conversation, and we've identified actually a practice that is preparatory and good. And apparently almost every section of the country have those practices where they prepare people. The North, apparently...
Sorry, love, can I take off my shoes? Is that permission?
Yes, you can take off your shoes.
This is one practice that we have. High heels. It's tradition now to be dengue, you wear high heels, even if it's killing
in the
you.
North, they prepare people for marriage, and you were describing something. And it is not just here, by the way. The West, there's the finishing school.
That's the Western.
The Jews, both male and female, they have preparations also. I'll talk about that later, but I'd like to hear what Anne said she went through.
Okay, so when I was getting married, one of the things I was asked was, are you going to put the comb? You know how, have you ever seen I'm an Efik woman, proudly so. So we put in the combs in the hair, and then if you're a first daughter, yours is longer. If you're a second daughter, yours is shorter, and all of that. So when I was going to do that, someone asked me, Anne, do you know that there are spiritual or traditional implications to putting the comb? I love my culture. Like when I hear Calabar music right now, you've gotten me. I totally enjoy it. But I said, my pictures will be incomplete if I don't have that comb. It will just be absurd. So I said, so I spoke to the lady that was going to do the comb for me. So I understand where they're coming from. So in those days, she explained to me that in those days, when they're putting in the comb, they can be doing incantations and all of that. Now it's tweaked a bit. The lady that was doing it for me was praying with me and telling me about the different things. Yes, so she was putting the comb. So you give her a drink. You give her a drink, you give her some money, there's some things that come in, and then as she's putting it, she was saying, may you go well in your home, she was praying with me, and then she also told me about sex. She talked about things, so she did the little...
Don't deprive your husband.
The fattening room thing.
Or what?
She had it...
She did it in a little...
in a little
containable
space.
process.
And she sat with me and she prayed. At the end of the day, I didn't feel defiled in any way, tradition. I didn't feel like they had said some prayers on my head.
I like the point the spiritual thing, because that's common these days. Anytime we talk about our tradition, people want to say, or people want to presume that there's something spiritually dark and diabolical about it. And yes, there might have been aspects, and you can remove it the way you've just described.
You can turn it around.
Thank you. But I don't like us throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Tell me about the lale. You were talking about even in the north, there's this thing that they do. Even what you...
In the north, yes. When they want to get married, the women, they're going to give you know, you.
Is it a religious thing?
Well,
Like, is it Islam?
Religion and culture, they've come together.
In the north.
In
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Really?
Everywhere. Like, as a Muslim, Islam will tell you that when your culture and your religion, they clash, you have to go with the religion.
Okay.
But if your culture doesn't clash with the religion, you can go. Yes. You can go and do it. Because Islam recognizes that.
But I find that
because there's
lale
is actually good, because it's in one of the traditions that as a Muslim. Because lale is henna. Yes. It's good for your hair. It's good for all that.
So they're praying for you as you're doing it?
No, not that. It depends on the culture.
Okay.
You know. But the thing is that they give them aphrodisiacs.
Ooh.
All sorts of apparently in some culture in the north, if your mother-in-law is part of the things that they give the wife, if she does not come with a whole bag of different type of aphrodisiac for you, she probably doesn't like you.
Wow.
Yeah, so she's going to give you aphrodisiac,
like
all
those
sorts of aphrodisiac, and tell you how to use it. You're going to
nice to know
drink,
what they are.
you're going to use the one to
Yes.
bath, the one you
you
mix
drink,
with fish,
yeah,
the one you mix with chicken, the one you mix with...
So aphrodisiacs to prepare for her husband,
yogurt, of
or
course.
for both, just for the husband?
Both of you, of course.
Okay.
It will help your own body get ready to get down, and it will also get your husband.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Thank you
that's
very
like
much.
good.
On that note, I'm going to ask the young. Yes, she's too quiet.
We're talking about.
No, she's too quiet.
My ears are wide open.
For me, tradition is actually most important if we can pass them down.
Yeah.
Because the definition of tradition is what you pass down. Yeah. Even in the Bible, you heard people would call their children around and say, so I say these things to you, and continue in them. Yeah. In the traditional village, they were oral, word of mouth, and all that. And so I would like to ask you, do you think that your generation is missing out on some of these traditions being passed on properly?
You know, like,
actually a little worried.
Or does your generation believe that they need tradition? Do they like our tradition?
I think to a certain extent, till today, my daddy still does that thing where he holds like a drink or a cola nut, and then he, of course, he doesn't say like the incantations, but like he prays, and till this morning, like before he leaves, as early as he leaves, he holds like a glass and pours some on the floor, and he's speaking Igbo and saying, "Oh, we're giving you your own," you know. And it's very interesting. I always look at my brothers and I'm like, hope you'll be able to do these things, because I actually like the fact that, you know, he does all of those things. Why
do you like it? Because
I feel like it has a very interesting meaning. Like I think it's very yes, and just like my daddy doesn't speak English to us. Like he doesn't speak English to us, even at the airport, anywhere. He will always speak.
English and they give it to him.
No, he speaks Igbo to us, and then we answer him in English. And then the day that he's not in the mood, he gives it back to us immediately. Yes, you know, and all. And then I think one of the other ways that we've learned from him, before I used to be like, why are you playing Osadebe and all this type of music? But now those are my jams. Like when I just hear some people, there are even new ones that I know of now, like Obiligo, I'm just like, yes, play it, let's get down, you know, and all of that. So
if tradition, good, can be passed down, we are sending our culture into the next generation.
Yes. Otherwise, they
and if not, they are actually, that's, you asked me at the beginning, what do I like about culture? Because culture is about you sending the essence of you and your roots into the next generation. Otherwise, what happens is that they actually don't get the other culture properly. It's like they are hung, and they then don't understand their own roots and where they're coming from. That's my problem. If you see a Jewish young person till tomorrow, they do their mizpah and something, it's mizpah for the boys, and at 14, that's why the Jew remains a strong Jew, and has confidence. I like what your dad does, because that's spiritually taking over his house every morning.
No, but you see, among the Igbos, they also have coming of age for the young men, apart from the girls. But, you know, they still do it in some parts.
Do you still do that?
Yeah.
No, they're coming of age, age group. There's age groups.
Because this December, my brothers, so they... now in my village, they have like titles for certain. Yes, so now we have to travel, whether I would like it or not, because all my brothers are going to take a certain title. So they're going to be a certain title holder. So we all have
languages. When you were talking about languages, I recently started speaking Efik to my son. So my husband is Kwale, Delta, and then I just felt to myself, sometimes I feel bad when I see people that do not understand their language. Because I see even people, even the French, no matter where they stay, if they live in America, they understand French. Even there's no even Yoruba people.
Do you understand,
oh my
do you
God.
understand enough Efik to teach that?
I speak Efik, but you want me to start here?
So because you see, that's one regret I have. That, you know, my husband is Ebo, which is Somondokwa, I'm Edo. So which language? So we spoke English.
No, you can't speak.
No, but the regret is I should have taught them what I knew.
Yes. Exactly.
I mean, even Yoruba or whatever.
But
having said that, though, I want to go back to the question that it's very good. I like what Fumi is saying, no, there are good things in tradition. We must ensure that we pass it to the children. Are we passing drinking water from cups to children?
No.
Are we passing cutting people's clitorises because we don't want them to have enjoyment, passing on? Is that tradition? Are we saying it is? No, so the point is, what are those things that must be a no-no? How do we sift?
I would ask Sajja.
Anything that is harmful to our society, that is harmful to our body, okay, take example when someone dies and you tell the wife to shave their head. What exactly are you saying? If I shave your head, what's it going to do? Do you understand?
It's a sign that you are
It's a sign that what? I can
So
mourn without shaving my head. So you have to find out why is that tradition there and what does it do? I mean, you shave a woman's head if she does not want to do that for fashion. You remove her crown. That's what you do. You tell her to drink water that you used to bath a dead body. She can die from that, from infection. Yeah. You cut her clitoris because of what you're trying to do, or stop her from being promiscuous. The child can die from that, from bleeding. You know, so we have to look at what tradition. Tradition is good. Tradition identifies us. Because look at the Oyinbo people that maybe because of slave trade, they've moved around the world and they don't know their roots. They're lost. If you do not know your roots and you cannot identify with a people, you are lost. So tradition is good. We just look at what is bad and harmful to us as a gender, to our society, and we change it.
I think as civilization comes and education comes, it behoves any people to see what traditions to leave behind. Even in the West, there are traditions that they've left behind. I mean, even in the West, they lynched people. So there are traditions that as civilization comes, we can leave behind.
I'm talking about our dress, how it is tradition, and how all over the world now, they look at us and they go like, that is beautiful, that is colorful. Look at the headgear. That is a good thing. Why would I want to stop that?
To finish with that, and you can show it. And anyway, in the earlier times, these were not made exactly how you and I are wearing it now.
You can modernize it. Look at this.
It's been modernized. And so, but it shows a pride of It shows the pride of the roots when we are able to come out like this.
Yeah.
Like she said, anywhere in the West, I would usually, even when my son was finishing at public school.
Which one, the first one or the second one?
The second one.
Your baby.
Yes. When he was finished, when he graduated in Oxford, I can show you the photograph. He told me to not do gele, but I must wear something traditional, that I needed to look different.
I must see that
so,
picture.
yes, what did I do? I tied, the Igbo double wrapper.
2 wrapper.
Only one. Then did my lace blouse and then put pearls. And as I walked into the hall, the man at the gate...
queen from where?
Exactly. The man at the gate said, and who is fairest of them all? So you can bring your culture into things in a respectable and, nice way, such that they can respect it, and you put it in the stage of the world in a good way.
I want to revisit that widowhood thing. I mean, I have a friend, in fact, my producer's friend lost her husband recently, and there was confusion because this one will say, this is what the tradition says, that's what the tradition says. I think in such circumstances, like you're saying, we should not throw away the baby with the bathwater.
Can you hold that thought? Because we need to stop, and we will be back to our audience because this is a long conversation.
Okay, are you guys game for continuing?
We can continue this conversation at the next time. Thank you very much for watching us. We'll be back.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
On Plus TV News now, former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Olisa Ogbakoba, tells tribunal to decide on presidential petitions before May 29. Delta APC expels governorship candidate Ovie Omar Agege from party. Tunisian opposition demands clarity on President Kais Saied's absence. Finland sets to join NATO on Tuesday. A very good evening to you. I'm Loretta Chiogo, and this is News Now. Members of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in Rivers State have protested at the office of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to demand the joint inspection of election results with the APC and the certified true copies of result sheets for the just concluded general elections. The protesters paralyzed vehicular activities from the Waterlines area through to the GRA area of Aba Road in the metropolis. The protest was led by the Deputy Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly, Edison Ebie.
That INEC cannot allow any of the political parties to inspect materials without the order. We are saying, even us as PDP, don't allow us to inspect the electoral materials without the other political parties. Man that is coming to Equity must come with a clean hands. We don't want them to smuggle in fake results written by policemen. You are aware that a few nights ago, their operations were busted and they are left with no option than to bury their face in shame. So they are coming through the back door to see how they can smuggle in those results in the name of inspection. Inspection must be done jointly.
We are here standing as the women of Rivers State to say that whatever they do, they should involve our people. They shouldn't do something in absence of PDP. Let the INEC know it well that this is the Rivers State. This Rivers State is PDP, and we cannot be here. Anybody will come and rob our mandate. We won't take it from them. So they should do the right thing. So PDP, there will be peace in this state, and we believe there's always peace in Rivers State. So we must keep to that peace.
Meanwhile, gunshots were heard when members of the APC and the PDP in Rivers State clashed in Port Harcourt, the state capital, over the inspection of election results. Trouble started when the APC governorship candidate, Tonye Cole, and members of his party arrived at INEC's office for the inspection. He was met with an opposition by members of the PDP who demanded a joint inspection of election results and the certified true copies of result sheets in the governorship election. And still on the matter, the APC governorship candidate in Rivers State, Tonye Cole, has accused the PDP of sending thugs to attack him and his team to prevent them from the inspection of election results. Cole said he had approached INEC to obtain documents used in the election for the purpose of filing a petition to challenge the declaration of the PDP candidate, Siminalayi Fubara, as the winner of the election. Speaking in a live interview, Cole said he was pelted with water, food and stones until he got injured.
Thugs everywhere to prevent us from getting to our INEC office. I wasn't deterred. And so I went with my party chairman, the woman leader, the youth leader, senior officials of APC to INEC. They had barricaded the road from GRA Junction everywhere. It took my security people to forcefully evict me. They have been paid 15,000 naira a day, which we did investigation to find out, so that they can come and mobilize and prevent us from getting CTCs. Now, it's no coincidence that by that day, by Friday, we will be out of time. We will not be able to file. We will not be able to get documents. They're trying to prevent us from filing. So I am escalating this to INEC National. I'm escalating it to the IGP of Police, escalating it. Tribunal cannot hold in Rivers State. It is obvious that it's too dangerous. INEC National must request for the CTCs and bring them so that we can have them. It's our right.
The APC in Delta State has expelled the Deputy President of the Senate, Ovie Omah Agege, from the party. In a statement signed by the Chairman, Executive Committee of Delta APC, Olebo Isaac, the governorship candidate was expelled for alleged anti-party activities and other unnamed offences. Omah Agege had lost the governorship election to PDP's candidate Sheriff Oborewori. The Labour Party has passed a vote of confidence on its national chairman, Julius Abure, following his alleged suspension by some members of the party. States executive members of the party who stormed the national headquarters of the Labour Party in Abuja described the suspension as the handiwork of imposters sponsored by other political parties to destabilize the success recorded by the party. Some groups claiming to be Ward 3 executives of the party in Edo State had announced the suspension of the LP national chairman over allegations of forgery, perjury, mismanagement of funds, anti-party activities, among others. But the chairman of the Edo State chapter of the party, Kelly Ogbaloyi, said the constitution of the party doesn't empower any group or party members to suspend a national officer who was elected by a national convention. And now to Zamfara, where the state governor, Bello Matawali, has appealed to residents of the state to be law-abiding and respect the rule of law. The governor insisted that he remained the governor of the state until the end of his tenure in May this year. Matawali spoke to newsmen shortly after a closed-door meeting with commissioners and special advisors.
The election has come and gone. People have to be very careful, and they should know that still I'm a governor till the 29th of May, so people have to abide with the law and the regulations of the state. And I assure the people of Zamfara State that we are bouncing back.
Taraba State Governor-elect Colonel Kefas Agbu is determined to give youth the opportunity to contribute to his administration, noting that 90% of his cabinet will be youth. Speaking during a congratulatory visit to him by the president of the National Youth Council of Nigeria, Kefas promised that his government will implement many people-oriented projects that will develop the state and the nation at large. In his remark, the president of the NYCN, Sokubo, commended INEC for conducting credible and transparent polls in Taraba State.
At least you have fought for your destiny, beginning with Taraba, which I'm sure of. I want to assure you that this government is for the youth. %90 of my commissioners are going to be youths. And I mean it. Yes, sir. Yes. Because I want to work with people that can take risk, people that can work 24/7.
We, as young people, as National Youth Council of Nigeria, we are watching the will of our young people and the mandates we are giving to our young people to represent us at local, states, and at the national level. And we find it worthy. In our assessment, we noticed that during this last governorship election in Taraba State, the incident that occurred that we have had in so many places that claims lives of young people and humans. In Taraba State, we find it is mine. We can't count up to 2 to 3. So we noticed that this is the first state the council have accepted the outcome of the governorship election in this year, 2023.
As the conduct of the 2023 general elections continues to top discussions across the country, the federal government has been called upon to deport both UK and US ambassadors to Nigeria over the statements made during elections. Speaking to journalists, the founder of One Love Family, Sadhguru Maharaj, mentioning that unless the ambassadors apologize within the next few weeks, they should be sent back to their countries.
There are hypocritical statements being made by the US and UK ambassadors, which should be cleared by them within the next few weeks. Otherwise, I will recommend that both ambassadors should be deported from Nigeria for new hands capable of knowing that Nigeria is a sovereign state and no nation on earth should dabble in her affairs. The problems we are facing are being caused by them, and every step we are taking to overcome them always don't go with them. But this time around, we will not fail.
Maharaji also lashed out at the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Governor Godwin Emefiele, describing the introduction of the new Naira notes into the Nigerian economy as a treasonable offense against the people.
The Naira design is meant to threaten the lives of the people in order to scuttle the presidential and gubernatorial elections against the ruling party. There's no way he can defend himself that was not what he planned along with his conspirators. Emefiele should accept the fact that he has a stake as a banker to enjoy immunity on banking regulations and control of our banking industry. But events of the last 3 months shows clearly that he has bungled the whole system into facing the people, into facing hardships. And this kind of attitude is treasonable because he was one of those who tried and failed to contest to be president.
A former
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
You're welcome back. Sorry about the hitch. A former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Olisa Gbakoba, a senior advocate of Nigeria, has called for the speedy dispensation of the presidential election petitions. Agbakoba said the speedy outcome would be a strategy against the plot of an interim government. The DSS had confirmed a plot by some key political players to install an interim government. Agbakoba listed 3 key issues in the presidential election petitions, which he said were resolvable by the application of procedural orders and/or directions. The Pan-Yoruba socio-political organization Afenifere has warned against any acts that could jeopardize the handing over of power to elected officers on May 29. In a press release signed by the organization's National Publicity Secretary, Comrade Jare Ajayi, the group noted that there have been reports that may be prejudicial to the swearing-in of winners of the just concluded elections. Afenifere expressed concern about the untoward development, noting that it was gaining attention in the country and even outside the shores of the land. A human rights lawyer, Femi Falana, senior advocate of Nigeria, has said that the late publicity secretary of the Yoruba socio-political group Afenifere Yinka Odumake, was committed to the institutionalization of democracy in Nigeria. Falana was speaking at the second anniversary of the Comrade Yinka Odumake lecture and book presentation in Lagos. He recalled how Odumake started the struggle against injustice right from his university days, when he approached his chambers to help fight for some students detained for protesting against the killing of 4 of their colleagues.
Yinka will be honored and celebrated for what he stood for in his lifetime. You know, bourgeois politicians, in their desperation to retain power, they whip up ethnicity, religion, and other primordial sentiment. For greatness, for truthfulness, for incorruptibility, for a government that we could be proud of all over the world, not in words, but in action, and work for it against all odds, against all temptation. That is Yinka.
And we move to Kogi State, where scores have been feared killed after gunmen invaded communities in Oganenigu ward of Dekina local government area of the state. Reports said the invaders stormed the communities, shooting sporadically and burning down houses in the early morning raid. Governor Yahaya Bello has, however, called for calm over the attacks. The federal government has assured it is committed to providing the required support that would improve all aspects of training and security in the country. At the inauguration of a new adventure obstacle course for cadets training in Kaduna, the Minister of Defense, Major General Bashir Magashi, maintained that the armed forces remained resolute and would continue to address insecurity challenges in the northwest of the country.
Our coming here is to see how best we can improve the training and other aspects of soldiering within the academy by the young officers that are coming up. On the ground, you can see what is going on, and I think even the northwest, there is a lot of improvement. The only thing is that some of these things you cannot say you completely get rid of them, but gradually I'm sure people will come back to a civilized way of doing things. The armed forces have been doing their best, and I'm sure you will appreciate what they have been doing so far. They are doing a lot, and the cadets are responding to all the improvements. The staff, everybody is putting his best to see that the armed forces will do the country proud.
And 3 persons were reportedly killed in early hours attack on Dabna village in Dukwaba district, Hong local government area of Adamawa state by suspected Boko Haram members. Confirming the attack, the state police relations officer Suleiman Ngoroje said the commissioner of police has given his men marching orders to trail and arrest the masterminds of the ugly incident. He warned that attacks on innocent people would no longer be tolerated in the state.
The command received report at the early hours of death that a certain village was attacked there, and then the commissioner of police have deployed the operational assets, including the counter-terrorist unit of the command. And as I'm talking to you, our men have already dominated the area. Situation is normal. And 3 corpses were already identified, picked, and are now taken to morgue for examination. So whatever we're doing well, the command is still strategizing to prevent such from occurring anymore.
The governor has received with sadness news of the attack on Dabna in a community in Hong local government. He has also totally condemned the attack and asked the security agents to go after and apprehend the attackers. Moreover, he has also directed that immediate relief should be sent to the community so that at least for now, for the interim before something will be done, let them have a little bit of succor.
Meanwhile, the secretary to the government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, has condemned the attacks and killings in Dabna village in Adamawa State. The repeated attacks have led to loss of lives, properties, and means of livelihood of the people of Dabna and surrounding communities who are basically agrarian. The SGF commended the swift intervention of the law enforcement agencies in containing the attack from spreading to other communities. He also condoled with the government and people of Adamawa State, Dabna community, and families of those who lost their loved ones in the incident. In Kaduna, 3 suspects in connection with the killing of 2 people in Shikun local government area of the state have been arrested by the police. This was disclosed by the state's Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruan, who mentioned that social activities led to the violence which claimed the lives of the victims and the destruction of properties. According to the Commissioner, the incident made the state government impose a 24-hour curfew in the area to forestall an escalation to other parts of the state. And still talking about security, the synergy between security agencies and local vigilante have been identified as a key component for effective community policing. This was the submission at a one-day seminar organized to train and sensitize local vigilante volunteers on the need to work closely with various security agencies while combating crimes at the grassroots.
Commend the Edo people and more so the state governor who also allow us to participate in this exercise, because if he has not given us the leverage, we would have still be at the private individual levels, at our local level, like they used to call us local vigilante. I commend the police, the Nigerian police, most especially at the onset, the Nigerian Army, who really supported us while we were private outfits then outside the joint operation.
The police, the army, they are doing their best, but we know these places. This is our locality. We know each and every person in this locality. So I think it's very easy for we to combat crime than the conventional security personnel.
Community policing is supposed to be a must, as it helps us at the grassroots to tackle some of these vices. Before now, there used to be a kind of look down by the existing law enforcement upon the vigilante. But having worked closely, especially from the support we get from the government, that cooperation has now really enhanced.
Criminals, the kidnappers that commit all this crime, they are not ghosts. They reside in our various communities. They, most time, people that we even know. But by the situation where the local vigilantes, they are not involved in security architecture, the gap will be there.
And in Plateau State, the High Court, presided by Justice M.L. Musa, has reinstated Honorable Nuhu Abok as the Speaker of the Plateau State House of Assembly. Abok was impeached in October 2021 and was replaced by Yakubu Sanda. Dissatisfied with the House's decision, Abok approached the State High Court for a redress. In its judgment, the court upheld the submissions of the complainant that the impeachment was illegal and therefore null and void. The court awarded the sum of 1.5 million naira as cost of appearance and the sum of 138,000 naira as cost of filing the suit against the defendants.
The court found, based on our claim, that the first defendant was unjustly and illegally removed as the Speaker of the Plateau State House of Assembly on the 28th day of October 2021. The processes leading to his removal, the court held were illegal, despotic, and a rape of our democracy.
We are here in the premises of the House of Assembly. All of us were elected to represent our various constituencies. And we still have some months that is still left for us to continue the assignment that was duly given to us by our various constituencies. Even though there was crisis sometimes, but today the court has given his stance against that illegality that was done.
Members of the People's Democratic Party caucus in the State House of Assembly hailed the judgment.
As I've said, I'm very, very elated. I'm very, very happy. We went to court against all odds, against all forms of intimidation. Our allowances and were stopped. We didn't budge. We stood for the truth. We've been vindicated. So I'm very happy. I'm very excited.
Before now, our argument has remained one, and it still remains that impeachment is part of the business of legislature, but the procedure that was followed is what we kicked against. If the procedure was followed accordingly, we would all shake hands because we're strengthening this institution. This judgment today is bringing us to a position that we will respect the laws which we make as legislators in the state, to ensure that the right things are done. You know, the illegal impeachment that was done was set aside, and the Right Honorable Abok Ayuba is brought, to be the Speaker, Plateau State House Assembly, to continue with the good work.
In a swift reaction to the development, the Majority Leader of the House of Assembly, Nalong Daniel, said the House was not in receipt of the said judgment, as the news only came to them as a rumor. The reinstated Speaker, Nu Abok, has insisted on returning to the House on Tuesday. Perhaps more drama waiting at the Plateau State House of Assembly on Tuesday. Enugu State Magistrate Court in Ifo local government area of the state has granted bail to singer Habib Okikiola, popularly known as Portable. Portable was arraigned after his arrest by security operatives of the State Police Command last Friday. The Zazu crooner was brought before the court on a 5-count charge of assault and stealing. Delivering his ruling, the presiding judge, A.S. Shoneye, said the offences were bailable and granted him bail with a bail bond of 300,000 naira and 2 sureties who must reside within the jurisdiction of the court. However, for assault and stealing, he was admitted to bail to the tune of 500,000 naira with 2 sureties. The court, however, ruled that the defendant be transferred to the Laru Correctional Center pending the time his bail requirements were met. The case has been adjourned to the 26th of April for the commencement of trial.
Portable, there are things we need to first clear. The news outside is that he was arrested and detained. That is not true. He willingly submitted himself to the police for in respect of the invitation that was served on him. Incidentally, the police had their way, and he was detained and today arraigned in court. What has happened in court today is that we made our position known to the court that all the preferred charges against him are ordinarily bailable, and without going into the merit of the case so that we will not prejudice the matter, the court agreed with us and granted him bail, and of course he will be available to defend himself once a trial commences, and return date for trial will be the 26th of April 2023.
And the Lagos State High Court, sitting at the Tafawa Balewa Square, Lagos Island, has dismissed a no-case submission filed by the suspended Assistant Superintendent of Police, Drambi Vande, who allegedly killed a Lagos-based lawyer, Omobolanle Rahim, on December 25, 2022. Justice Ibironke Harrison ordered the defendant to open his defense as a prima facie. In his application on the no-case submission, Vande had asked the court to dismiss the suit and discharge him, claiming that he was he has no case to answer. The prosecution led by the Attorney General of Police, Attorney General of Lagos State, Muyosore Onigbanjo, a senior advocate of Nigeria, had, however, countered Vandy's argument, insisting that the prosecution had successfully made its case against him. The Corps Marshal of the Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC, Dauda Ali Biu, has expressed the Corps' readiness to work with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, in the fight against economic and financial crimes in Nigeria. Biu, who paid an official visit to the EFCC headquarters in Abuja, said the Corps had offered access to its vehicle registration portal to the Commission. He said over the last year, the portal was used to recover over 53 stolen vehicles. Therefore, all security agencies could harvest information from the portal.
Over the last year, that is the 2022, the facility of our portal was used to recover a total of 53 stolen vehicles. All the security agencies, they rely, and in fact, they harvest information from us. First, on the information on vehicle registration and driver license, and then information on the holders of those, either the driver license or the vehicle.
The chief whip of the Senate, Orji Uzor Kalu, has lost his wife. Kalu announced her demise in a Facebook post. The senator said a memorial service would be held in her honor in the U.S. The former governor of Abia State did not give details about the death of the 61-year-old. And still ahead, UK insists on sending illegal migrants to Rwanda. Details coming to you shortly. Welcome back now to some parts of Africa. The UN Human Rights Office says it's still extremely worried about the impact of the UK's government's plan to send some migrants to Rwanda if they arrive in the UK through illegal routes. UK Home Secretary Snella Braverman insisted Rwanda is a safe country for migrants. She said she believed the Rwandan policy would have a significant deterrent effect that would stop people from making the journey across the channel to the UK. But the UN Human Rights Office said assessments done by the UN Refugee Agency showed that the asylum system in Rwanda was not robust enough. The leader of South Africa's largest opposition party has been reappointed as head of the Democratic Alliance, DA. Speaking after being reappointed, John Stelneson called for a united opposition and presented himself as the alternative for the country. South Africa is set to hold general elections in 2024. The ANC, in power since 1994, has been losing grounds at the polls for the past decade. The ANC faces growing discontent fueled by endemic unemployment, rising inequality, and a severe electricity crisis that leaves some 60 million South Africans without power for up to 12 hours a day. Tunisia's main opposition coalition has pressed the government to explain a days-long public absence of President Kais Saied, saying it had information that he was sick. Ahmed Najib Cherry of the National Salvation Front opposition coalition told journalists that he had been informed that President Saied was suffering from health problems. Saied has not appeared in public or held any meetings since March 2022, According to posts on his Facebook page, the president sees only official channel of communication. The lack of statements or videos have sparked rumors over the state of Said's health. Chebbi said Prime Minister Najib Bouden would run Tunisia in the event of a temporary power vacuum, but that a permanent vacancy would present the country with a great catastrophe due to a legislative void. East African regional forces have announced that they are now in control of Bamagama, a strategic town in eastern DRC, previously held by M23 rebels for more than 9 months. The spokesman for the Ugandan contingent of the regional force, Captain Kato Ahmed Hassan, confirmed that the M23 rebels had been cooperative during the transition process. The rebels' departure from Bunagana has been a key demand during several rounds of mediation efforts in the crisis in eastern Congo, where more than 120 armed groups have been fighting for land, power, and resources, and some to protect their communities. We move on now to outside Africa, where Finland's flag will be hoisted outside NATO's headquarters on Tuesday when it becomes the newest member of the Western Alliance. So said the Secretary General, Jens Stoltenberg. Finland's foreign ministry will hand over the formal accession papers to U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, the keeper of NATO's founding treaty, and the country's blue and white flag will be raised alongside those of its new allies. Russian President Vladimir Putin's all-out invasion of Ukraine last year upended European security and pushed Finland and its neighbor Sweden to drop decades of non-alignment and seek to join NATO's protective umbrella.
We will welcome Finland as the 31st member of NATO, making Finland safer and our alliance stronger. We will raise the Finnish flag for the first time here at the NATO headquarters, provided bilateral security assurances, and now with Finland as a full member, that will further increase Sweden's security and also further integrate Sweden into NATO, because Finland and Sweden are so closely integrated already. So I'm saying all of this because we should not leave the impression in the way that Sweden is left alone. No, Sweden is very much inside NATO, integrating into military civilian structures. Allies are ready to act, and it's inconceivable that there were going to be any threats or military attacks against Sweden without NATO reacting, and even more so with Finland as a full member.
And this next report coming in says that the former president of the U.S., Donald Trump, looks to be seeking financial support for his 2024 re-election bid. This is coming just 2 days before he's expected to be arraigned. The report.
The office of former U.S. President Donald Trump says he'll speak in Florida on Tuesday following his arraignment in New York City. Trump is expected to be fingerprinted and photographed in a Manhattan courthouse as he becomes the first former president to face criminal charges. He's set to fly from Palm Beach to New York Monday, where he will spend the night at Trump Tower before his court appearance the next day. On Sunday, Trump asked for contributions to his 2024 re-election campaign in a video post to Truth Social, his self-founded social media platform.
If you're doing poorly because of Biden's disastrous policies, don't even think about making a contribution to our campaign. You and your family always come first. Our movement is about making your life better and putting you first. So I don't want you to incur any financial costs that you can't afford. But if you're doing well because all of the things that I've done have brought you wealth and prosperity, or at least you're extremely comfortable, it would be really great if you could contribute to our campaign. You know how to do it.
Trump was arraigned in New York after an indictment by grand jury that heard evidence on hush money paid to porn star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 election. Trump describes the probe as a political witch hunt. Some of his top supporters, including Republican lawmaker Marjorie Taylor Greene, say they will go to New York on Tuesday to protest. Officials at the Manhattan courthouse said they will shut down some courtrooms ahead of Trump's expected appearance. Trump lawyer Joe Tacopina told ABC on Sunday he plans to move to dismiss the charges. But he stopped short of doubling down on Trump's claim that the judge in the case, Justice Juan Merchan, is biased. Merchan also presided over a criminal trial last year in which Trump's real estate company was convicted of tax fraud, though Trump himself was not charged. Trump's office said he will fly from his arraignment back to Palm Beach Tuesday evening, where he will speak from his Mar-a-Lago estate.
And coming up next, OPEC Plus cuts crude oil output by 1.15 m BPD from May. That's in business news after this short break. Stay with us.
And in business, the country's external reserves fell by $1.46 billion between January and March, and figures obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria have revealed. The reserves ended February 27, 2023 at $36.67 billion. Figures obtained from the CBN's data and movement of external reserves on Sunday showed that the reserves, which stood at $36.99 billion as of the end of January 1, 2023, fell to $35.53 billion as of the end of March 30, 2023. At the last Monetary Policy Committee in Abuja in March, the governor of CBN attributed the decline in the external reserves to the fall in crude oil price. Emefiele, while unveiling the program, said the RT 200 FX program was a set of policies, plans and programs for non-oil exports that will enable Nigeria to attain $200 billion in FX repatriation exclusively from non-oil exports over the next 3 years. And the Nigerian exchange records new listings of about 318.52 billion naira in the first quarter. The new listings included equities, fixed income, mutual funds, and derivatives. The ex-compliance report of the NGX, which tracks activities at the stock market, showed that the federal government listed 11.23 billion naira new bonds under its Federal Government of Nigeria savings bonds, with maturities ranging between 2024 and 2026. The Lagos State government issued the only bond by a sub-sovereign entity with its 137.33 billion naira series 4 and 10-year 13% fixed-rate bonds due 2031 under the state's 500 billion naira debt issuance program. At the corporate bond segment, several companies listed new securities, including the 112.42 billion naira senior unsecured bond by Dangote Industries Funding PLC and 31.36 billion naira Sukuk issuance from Taj Bank and Family Homes under their respective Sukuk issuance programs. And also FTN Cocoa Processors PLC and Namath International Pharmaceuticals PLC undertook supplementary listings of 850 million naira and 3.68 billion naira worth of shares respectively. And Africa Plus Partners Nigeria Limited also listed its mutual fund, Africa Reinfra Plus One, the first Carbon Plus Naira denominated fund to be listed on the exchange at a market value of 21.65 billion naira. The Nigerian Export Processing Zones Authority says the country's free trade zone scheme generated a total of 35.1 billion naira for the government as custom duties in 2021. And in Abuja, Adesoji Ashukba, Managing Director of NEPSA, said the sum of 408.3 million naira was also remitted as pay-as-you-earn taxes in the same year. Accordingly, Adeshukba pay tax is one of the vital types of taxes in Nigeria that individuals pay to the Federal Inland Revenue Service within their respective state of residence. He said Section 19 of the NEPSA Act mandates FCC's enterprise to file returns for statistics and data. In addition, Section 8 stipulates that enterprise operating in zones should be exempted from federal, state, and local government taxes of NEPSA Chief Executive Officer. And these enterprises, Adeshupa says, are under obligation to pay all deferred taxes and duties when they extend their businesses to the custom territories. And speaking more on the success of FCZ, he says the scheme created 19,125 jobs in 2021, while a total of 3,000 job skills were transferred to Nigerians in the same year. And European shares rose on Monday after ending a volatile quarter high as oil heavyweights rallied after a surprise announcement by OPEC to cut production further lifted crude prices. The gains were, however, limited by a rise in U.S. and European bond yields that led to technology shares falling 0.7% as a jump in oil prices stoked fears of persistent inflation. The Pan-European Stock 600 index was up 0.1% on the first trading session of the new quarter after gaining consecutively for the last 2 quarters. Oil and gas shares were the top gainers, with the sub-index rising 3.6% in its biggest jump in 4 months, while travel and leisure shares, SSTP, were the worst performers, falling at 1.0%. Crude prices surged more than 5% after the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and their allies, including Russia, announced further oil output cuts of around 1.16 million barrels per day on Sunday. And investors are currently hesitant, says Baader Bank analyst Mark Richter, adding that they see that with the order flows, and according to Richter, the overall global situation is still too uncertain. Some investors are scared because of the banking crisis, and many are standing on the sidelines waiting for the right moment to invest. And European shares ended the first quarter higher despite a global banking crisis, but concerns persist about higher interest rates and nudging the global economy into a recession. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the oil-producing countries have announced plans to cut production by 1.15 million barrels per day from May till the end of the year. The decision, which may significantly affect oil prices globally, is coming ahead of the monthly meeting of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. And oil prices recently fell to $72 per barrel for the first time since December 2021. In a statement by Saudi Arabia's Energy Ministry, the country's quota of 500,000 BPD will be in a combination with some OPEC Plus and non-OPEC members. The ministry described the move as a precautionary measure, saying it is aimed at stabilizing the oil markets. And that's business news. Thanks for watching. I am Destiny Momo. The news continues shortly.
And coming up next is entertainment news.
Nigerian actor and comedian Bovie Ugboma has spoken out about why he no longer gets along with his colleague Bright Okocha, better known by his stage name Basket Mouth. Bovie revealed during a recent interview that he no longer maintains a friendship with Basket Mouth since the latter chose to put more of an emphasis on himself and his business. He said that the extent to which his friendship with Basket Mouth may go is limited. Bovie compared their current relationship to their prior one and asserted that the earlier phase was a passing phase. This is coming after AY comedian opened up about his long-term beef with his colleague Basket Mouth. AY discussed how Basket Mouth used to help him get connected with events when he was just getting started in the comedy business and how 30,000 naira cost the breakup in an interview. Big Brother Naija Season 7 winner Fina has tendered an apology message to those she offended in the last 6 months since she won the show. Recall that the reality star has faced criticism from many online for being very unruly since she found fame and money. In a video she shared online, Fina tendered a heartfelt apology where she said she has not been proud of herself for acting up lately. She also revealed that she is taking classes to improve her personality. Chris Rock's brother, Tony, has revealed a different version of events in the aftermath of the infamous Oscar slap between Will Smith and the show host in 2022. Tony said that Will did not reach out to Chris as he previously claimed in a July 29, 2002 video. Chris had shared his side of the story in his Netflix special Selective Outrage, and now Tony has revealed how the incident affected him. The Everybody Hates Chris actor said he didn't see the slap because he doesn't watch the Oscars. He clarified saying, "I don't support the Oscars because the Oscars does not support black movies." The funny man explained that he was watching a basketball game on TV when his phone started going crazy, which made him believe something terrible had happened. Watching it was painful for Tony, not only because Chris was his brother, but because he had considered Will a friend for decades. The actor worked in the family comedy All of Us, which was co-created by Will Smith and his wife Jada Pinkett and loosely based on their blended family, and ran from 2003 to 2007 on the UPN network. Drake has sampled Kim Kardashian's voice on a new song in what could be a possible stunt to Kanye West. The 36-year-old Canadian rapper premiered the track last Friday, March 31st, 2023, on the Fry Show on the Sirius XM radio. The song is called Rescue Me and features a conversation between Kim and her mother, Kris Jenner, that seems to reference Kanye in their discussion. Drake also suggested he and the starlet had a fling on his 2018 track In My Feelings. He famously repeats the line, "Kiki, do you love me?" on the hit song, leading fans to point out that Kiki is a nickname Kim's sister sometimes used for her. Kim went on to publicly warn Drake to never threaten her family as she waded into West and Drake's explosive feud. The two rappers reportedly settled their differences in 2021 when they performed at a benefit concert.
And coming up is the best in sports. Stay with us.
Jurgen Klopp says he is not afraid of the axe after a spate of Premier League casualties, but admits struggling Liverpool must deliver as he prepares his team to face managerless Chelsea. Liverpool, who fell agonizingly short of winning an unprecedented quadruple last season, are 8 points off the top four after Saturday's painful 4-1 loss at defending champions Manchester City. Klopp takes his team to Stamford Bridge on Tuesday after the weekend sacking of Graham Potter, hours after Leicester parted ways with Brendan Rodgers. Antonio Conte left Tottenham by mutual agreement last week. There have now been 13 managerial departures in the English top flight this season, a new record. Meanwhile, in tennis, Novak Djokovic has returned to the number one spot in the ATP rankings published today, despite missing US tournaments last month because of his lack of a COVID vaccination. Carlos Alcaraz had taken the top ranking from Djokovic after victory in Indian Wells, but the Spaniard bowed out of the semi-finals of the Miami Open on Friday to allow the Serb back for a record 380th week as world number one. Djokovic has a 380-point lead over Alcaraz, with Greece's Stefanos Tsitsipas in third, more than 1,000 points behind the leading duo.
And the main news again, a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Olisa Agbakoba, tells tribunal to decide on the presidential petitions before May 29. Delta APC expels Omar Gege from party. Tunisian opposition demands clarity on President Kais Saied's absence. And finally, Finland to join NATO on Tuesday. And that's news now. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. You can also view us from Limex and Glow TV mobile apps anywhere in the world. I'm Loretta Achiogo. Many thanks for watching. Do rest well tonight. Good night.